I know our episodes have been later than we wanted them to be, and there have just been a lot of things that have been happening at the court behind the scenes. The first 20 minutes of this video are going to have no relation to the actual trial and the actual happenings of the trial with all the testimonies of the witnesses. So the first 20 minutes are honestly just some behind the scenes information on things that we've been kind of working with. So if that is no interest to you, just skip ahead. I will say though, it has been a rough few weeks. This is our fourth time moving locations. One of them was completely unrelated to the case, and the rest of the times that we've moved to different places to stay, it's just been getting weird, and we're taking all the necessary precautions to keep the entire team safe. And I feel like I haven't really spoken about any of the things that have been happening behind the scenes, so I just want to fill you guys in. There has been so much happening inside the courthouse, or right after the court, or the entire team, like right before we go into the courthouse, and it's just things that we can't really put our finger on. And at the risk of sounding like we're overly paranoid, I'm just gonna try and tell you and explain why I think that we've been on edge recently. I'm just gonna paint the picture for you. This is not creepy, it's just pure chaos. Outside the courthouse, it is a literal zoo every single day. I see TikToks here and there of people capturing this chaotic tornado that's happening, and it is wild how desensitized everybody is getting to just how incredibly messy everything is. A few days ago, there was a man who came to the courthouse with this giant 2x4 plank of wood, and he was, in a rather menacing way, slamming it against the street poles. He swung it at a reporter. Thankfully, she did not get hit, but it was still terrifying nevertheless. And this is actually the second time within the span of like a few business days that the police have been called on this specific person. He has been around the line for a while. He has been consistently standing in the line to get into the courthouse, and then in the morning, he tries to sell his spot. I will say that this man is very intense. Our only interactions with him personally is that he is very aggressive, and he will aggressively scream "ni hao" at us and expect us to say it back. And so we do, because we're terrified. His friend is also very intense. There was one morning where I was going over transcripts before the courthouse opened. So I'm like sitting on the ledge of the sidewalk and I'm going over the transcripts. He's standing towering over me, and he's like demanding to know what I thought about Cassie's testimony. I told him I'm busy, I have work to do. I'm like going over the transcripts, and he keeps insisting me in a pretty threatening way. He's like towering over me. Why can't I help you? You don't think I can help you? You don't think I'm capable of helping you? I'm telling you I can help you right now. And it just took so long to get him to finally walk away. He was definitely erratic, unpredictable. It felt like he wanted me to answer his persistent questions about what I felt about Cassie's testimony so that he would have a reason to start freaking out. That was the feeling. There was another incident where a man was believed to be holding a pool ball inside of a sock. So he's like threatening to swing it around and hit people with it. We didn't see it, we were warned about it. So we like stayed in the courthouse a little bit longer before exiting that day. And it's the same guy that allegedly we heard again that he spat at a reporter. He was screaming homophobic slurs at people in the line. And the NYPD, they will just take the people harassing the public and the press outside waiting to get into the courthouse, will lead them across the street and then send them off. They literally just cross the street with them. We've seen this happen almost every other day. I mean, I think they can't really do anything unless someone demands to press charges or, I don't know, actually, God forbid, gets injured, so that's great.
This is how, shut the fuck up, bitch. This is the fuck. I said, shut the fuck up, bitch. I called you a bitch.
There is heavy police presence there. The US Marshals are out there every single day, but there are just nonstop people, unwarranted, unprompted, just spawning out of thin air, screaming at everybody. I honestly feel like some of these people are coming to the courthouse to get a fight out of their system. That's the feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. People are trying to argue about pretty much everything outside of this courthouse. I am told that this is very New York, which we have spent some time in New York and had a place here for a while, and it feels like every interaction, like every bad interaction I've had in New York, amplify it times 1,000 and then add it all up, and then I have to relive that experience every single day. We're trying to keep to ourselves. We're really just trying to mind our own business. But even so, just a few days ago, one of our team members was waiting in the line super early, gets harassed to the point of tears. A passerby is cursing at her, screaming belligerently at her, tries to snatch her phone from her hand. We've been told that she's been starting quite a few fights outside the courthouse. This is completely unprompted. She's screaming racist slurs at our team member's face. Nobody cares. Nobody helps. Like, people are just standing around live streaming it, filming it, watching it. And then afterwards, after the crazy lady leaves, the same people that were filming, that did nothing to help our team member, are now filming her as they comfort her. And they're like trying to rub her back and tell her it's okay. It is so dystopian. We were inside the courthouse, so we didn't even know until after the fact. There were briefly a group of protesters wearing Free Diddy shirts across the street from the courthouse. They were allegedly getting paid $20 an hour to stand outside and wear Free Diddy t-shirts to promote the Diddy coin, which we've also received an email about. It's like a crypto coin for Diddy, so there's that. There are people seemingly thirsting after Sean Combs' sons when they arrive and leave for court, with one supporter of the son, not Diddy supporter, kissing Justin Combs on the cheek. Which, speaking of, I will say, there has been an uptick of Diddy supporters coming into the courthouse through the public side. One supporter even tries to hand Sean Combs a stack of papers, which Officer Riz promptly put an end to, but there was a futile attempt. The supporters staying outside the courthouse, they've been slightly confrontational with the press and confrontational with a lot of others that are just live streaming right outside. So that's just setting the scene of what's been happening outside the courthouse. Also, why is fresh and fit Myron in the courtroom? Like, he was in the main courtroom for, I think, at least a few days last week. I haven't seen him the past few days, but he could be in the overflow rooms. I did see him outside while when he first started coming around. He's recording outside while a woman is undressing down into her underwear. This is like right outside the federal courthouse. This is how chaotic it's been. Which, if you're not familiar, Myron is the fresh and fit guy. If you're luckily unfamiliar with his podcast, which I don't even think is around anymore, he would have this format where he would bring a bunch of women onto the podcast, many of them being OnlyFans models, and he just essentially berates them for being alive. I mean, that's factually incorrect, but emotionally, that's what you're going to feel from the podcast. There are at least 5 times I wrote in my notebook, why is Myron here? Like, I don't know why he's here. But what's interesting about him is he's actually quite meek in real life. Not that I think he should carry himself as he does on his podcast in the courthouse, but he's rather, like, he has a very soft demeanor. Softer than other content creators that I run into in the elevators, which is not what I expected of him. Like, we were in the elevator with him once and everybody's shuffling out and we were waiting for him to leave and he's just like, oh yeah, no, please go ahead. But like very softly. Nevertheless, that's just like painting the picture of the chaos. There have been a lot of incidents though that have us feeling just weird. Right outside the federal courthouse, there is this one gigantic line that is filled with press and public. You got members of the press, you got members of the public, all in one singular line. The only way that you can kind of differentiate is like maybe they have on their press badge at the time. Now, this line typically starts the day before. The line sometimes starts before we get out of court sometimes. So the line starts while we're inside the courthouse. Clearly, nobody can be at 2 places at once. So a lot of the press members, they will hire line waiters. And just to give you an idea, a lot of the press pews, yes, there's a few independent journalists in there. A good number of them are all with Legacy Media, and Legacy Media has a lot of money. We're a small team, and just to keep up, we're having to spend about $1,000 a day to have line sitters. Actually, more, to just make sure we get into that main courtroom to be able to give you all the details that we really want to provide for you guys. So there's this giant line outside, press and public all in one line. And then right before the security line into the courthouse, the US Marshals will come out and divvy up the line. So they'll make a press line and they'll make a public line. So it's in order. So if you're like the 5th in line, you might be the 2nd member of the press, or you might be the 3rd member of the public, and they'll just kind of sort you one by one, depending on the order. Now, I will say that a good chunk of the public line are content creators, so it's kind of like a mini press line. Also, these days though, lots of supporters of Sean Combs that are not part of his friends and family that are going in through the public side as well. And then once you get inside the courtroom, the press pews are on the right side and the public pews are on the left side. Recently, there have been so many whisperings and just confusion because there have been people, different people each time, that will lurk around this gigantic main line outside before it's separated. And you'll see that in the beginning, I think the Legacy Media, they're a lot more intense about getting spots in the main courtroom. So good chunk of the first half of the gigantic line are press. There will be random people that will walk up and down this line, primarily focusing on the press members at the very front, and they'll act like they're just walking up and down for exercise, and they will be secretly recording everyone on their phones. Now, mind you, there are a lot of people live streaming outside, so it's not like they're live streaming. It's like they're trying to be discreet, like they're recording, but they don't want the press members to know that they're recording. So it's becoming incredibly uncomfortable, and all the press members are trying to warn each other once they spot someone like this. And it feels like it's every other day that they spot someone secretly recording members of the press. And it's confusing because, you know, a lot of the members of the press, these people are very impressive producers, reporters, journalists that have been in the industry for years. They work with legacy media. They're not the type of people that are just going to say unhinged stuff in broad daylight in a public setting or air out confidential information on the side of the street. So it's not like you're recording the press member saying anything salacious or juicy or even worth capturing on camera. It feels like they're recording to get a general vibe of the members of the press. Because right before we go in, we might have small talk about maybe yesterday's testimony or like what's to be expected when we walk in today, who's testifying today. Like there's little conversations like that where maybe you could see each members of the press, maybe you'll see a little bit of their feelings about how it's going, maybe you'll see like tiny bits of their opinions, nothing salacious. Maybe it's more like, oh, I almost cried when she was testifying. Like those are the types of comments you hear. It's really not worth recording. And I say that it's been weird because those same people that are trying to discreetly record, they will often approach members of the press asking questions about how they feel about the case thus far. And they'll try to do it in a very casual manner. But again, we're all warning each other that they're recording us. I think it's been pretty easy for my researchers and I to tell if someone that we meet near or outside or even sometimes inside the courthouse is a genuinely curious person, or if they're asking a lot of strange questions. And that's why it's so hard to explain any of this in a way that doesn't make us seem super dramatic, because we'll get similar questions asked by people who we feel are genuinely just supporters of the podcast or just intrigued because maybe they themselves are trying to start social media. So the past 2 weeks, we have had almost, I want to say it's like more than a handful. I think it's been like 8 or 9 times in the past like week. Not people that we see in the courtroom every single day. Completely new faces that will come up to us, tell us that they love our show, Rotten Mango, and then they keep asking us where we're staying, which hotel we're staying at, which part of the city we're staying at. And of course, we give them very non-committal answers because that's a very invasive question to ask.
Not only that, they even ask like, who's here?
Yes. Oh, I'm going to get into that. So like just to give you an idea, like clearly if someone is a member of the press or if it's a fellow content creator or somebody that I see every single day and we have some sort of foundation and they ask me, where are you staying? It feels like, oh, because we're all trying to get a gauge of all the hotels nearby, which one's a good one, which one has good amenities for after court. But these are random people that are like, hey, by the way, I love your show. Nice to meet you. My name is blank. Where are you staying? It's like instant. It's just nonstop questions about which hotel we're staying at. And then if we evade the question, it becomes what part of the city, which area, how long does it take you to get here? Do you Uber or do you walk? Who's all staying with you? Is it just you guys? Is it just you and your researcher here? Do you go home during the weekends if you're not from the city? Do you fly back home? Do you take the train? Like it's just nonstop.
Like, what are some of these questions going to provide for this person? Like
Nothing.
There's no need for anybody to ask these type of questions.
And the worst part is it's pretty clear that we're so uncomfortable with these questions because we'll literally be like, yeah, haha. And then they'll just keep asking.
And some of them don't seem like they've really watched anything from you. Yeah.
Because now like our researchers do this thing where they will try to have conversations about the show and most of them have no clue what the show is even about, is the feeling.
Yeah.
And then this person will just vanish. That'll be like the first conversation we have with them, and then we'll never see them in court again. So one specific time, there was a man, an older guy, who's asking us where we're staying, just pressing. And he's in the main courtroom, in the public section. He's asking us all these invasive questions, and then he's waiting for us in the hallway during each break, just casually lingering near us the entire day, and then just rerouting every conversation back to which hotel you're staying at, pressing details. My researcher passes me a note later in the day saying, look at him right now. He doesn't even have a notebook. So usually, because you can't bring your phone, and you're not just like staring. I mean, even members of the public, they're all taking notes, even if they're not content creators. Sure enough, I look, no notebook, no notes are being taken, nothing. And then he never shows up to court again. Another odd instance, this is a completely separate person. that's asking nonstop where we're staying. We give a non-committal answer to him. He keeps asking. And again, it's not giving that, hey, I'm genuinely curious because I'm also staying at a hotel. It's just so unsettling. We refuse to answer. We keep laughing it off. He keeps pressing. Later during a break, he approaches my researcher outside while I'm in the bathroom. And then he asks her where I'm staying. And she again does not respond because he just asked us while we were together. It was just weird. He literally just asked us. This has been happening like every other day. There are other odd questions that are asked by people that don't necessarily look like they even care about the show in the slightest. So one person in particular asked a series of questions trying to gauge how much, quote, power I have over my audience. Like they kept asking, like, can you make them do anything? And I was like, do you think I like run a cult? I think half of them don't even like me that much. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't make them do anything, period? But they kept asking, like, well, you don't think if you say something, they would listen to you? And I'm like, I don't think so. I think they would do their own research. And it did not seem like this person cared at all about this show. Now, this could be completely unrelated, and in addition to everything else that I've just talked about, and everybody's already pretty intense. There was one instance where we're walking out of the courthouse. We run into someone who's like, hey, I love your show. That's it. And then they like come in for a hug. It was kind of abrupt. I was a little bit taken off guard. I love your show. Pulling me in for a hug. And my researcher snatches my arm, pulls me back and is like, we got to go. Our car is here. And I thought it was kind of strange. So we get into the car and she's telling me their hand was like elbow deep into your tote bag. It's clear that they're looking for something. Now, I will say that my tote bag opening is quite large, but it's right under my armpit. So you would have to attempt to stick your arm in there. It would not be an accident, like, oh, I'm hugging you and my hand just ended up in this side. It's like elbow deep. So, I mean, I guess they could have been trying to steal my wallet, but it was weird. There's a lot of other small incidents that have taken place over the past week and a half. It feels like the weirdness and the influx of all these odd questions of where are you staying? How much influence do you have increased, especially the where are you staying ones. I mean, I've never had that many people ask me where I'm staying. And maybe it's coupled with all the chaos outside, with the people like threatening to hurt people with a pool ball and a sock outside. Maybe it has to do with the intensity of the case itself, and it's just all accumulated into this very stressful situation. But we have been just taking a bit more time to worry about our surroundings. Honestly, nothing really happened. It's just, you know, when you have a gut feeling like something's not right, it's kind of a lot of those that have been creeping us out, and we're just trying to stay on top of it before it escalates to anything. We could definitely just be paranoid, but I wanted to keep you guys updated on everything that's going on behind. But as of right now, nothing has really happened. Don't be worried. Nobody here is terrified. It's just been weird, and we're trying to be alert. We've been moving around to different places where we stay been more mindful to just not come straight back to where we stay after court. Just taking all these like necessary small steps, and it just takes time. Because it's not just me, it's my researchers, it's my whole team. We're all just trying to make sure everybody feels safe and comfortable. And that's what we've been dealing with more in the past week, but I think that we should be able to get episodes up more quickly. I think we have a really good plan in place for all of us to feel safe, and hopefully it works. So with that being said, let's get into the actual episode. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support Achievement Centers for Children. They're a nonprofit organization helping children and adults with disabilities to achieve their greatest potential. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team and also our constant moving around in the city, bringing the team to the city. And we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Few disclaimers: there are mentions of physical assault, kidnapping, firearms. Many of the quotes and statements included have been shortened and condensed for brevity. And you guys know the drill. Sean Combs is presumed innocent until proven guilty. That burden of proof is the responsibility of the government. Any descriptions or observations regarding Mr. Combs' legal team, anybody inside that courtroom, are personally noted by myself or my other researchers who are present in the courtroom. They should not be used as like a definitive source on how you should feel about anybody. So with that being said, let's get started. In other news, I think Diddy might know us. I don't know, maybe. So I'm just gonna explain. The first time it happened, I didn't even say it in an episode because my researcher and I are like, it was weird, but like we could be dramatic. The second time it happens, I'm like, wait, maybe I'm not being dramatic. Not that it means anything regardless, but here's what happened and you tell me, because what is going on? Usually, Sean Combs will do this thing where he does a sweep of the press pews when he first walks into the courtroom. He's like hugging his attorneys. He'll look to the public side, which is on his right, and then we're kind of diagonal from him. And he oftentimes, since more of his supporters are coming to the courtroom these days, he'll shoot them little hand hearts. He'll put his hand to his chest. He'll mouth thank you. And then the press pews, we get a simple glance over and sometimes a nod, like a quick head down nod. Now, clearly, this stands out to both my researcher and I really strongly because on Thursday, we even write the time down, at 8:50 a.m., jurors are not in the courtroom. Attorneys are doing their thing. They're going through their documents. They're conversing about certain aspects of the day. Sean Combs sits down at his chair, and he turns in his chair to the right. This is our eye direction, like we can see him now. He makes eye contact with the press pews. We're at the very first row of the press pews. So there's 2 rows behind us. Now he glances over the press pews. He starts staring in what felt like in our general direction or perhaps right behind us. And it's a pretty lengthy stare. And then he starts nodding while mouthing the words dramatically, "I know you."
You don't hear it. You only see the mouthing, right?
Yeah, and it was clear that he was doing it so whoever is receiving it can understand what he's saying. Because it's not like mumbling. He's like, "I know you." Like very clear. He mouths it twice with what we perceive to be a smirk. Then as he's turning back around to face the front, he's like ever so slightly shaking his head while he's still smirking.
And at that point, the feeling was he was saying that towards you, right?
Yeah, so my researcher wrote like, it looked like he was looking at Stephanie. I wrote like, listen, you know when you can like make eye contact with someone, it feels like they're looking at you? Because you know when you're talking to someone and they're looking behind you, you start like looking behind you without even thinking about it subconsciously because you're like, wait, what's going on? Why are you looking behind me? It felt like he was looking at me, but again, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I don't know if he was looking at me. He could have been looking behind me, right? But then right at that moment, the jury comes in, we all stand up, and as there's noise in the courtroom, because we're not allowed to talk when the judge is on the bench, a reporter from a major media network. I mean, she's been doing this for years and years. She's like a professional. She turns to me and she whispers, quote, "You're putting that in your video, right?" Because that was at least 7 seconds. And 7 seconds does feel like an eternity
It's
in
not
that
only
courtroom.
just looking, but like the mouthing of "I know you" is weird.
And it
right?
was a pretty long time. Like usually when you know how in the beginning I'm like, this guy loves to stare. He kind of dropped a lot of the staring, at least towards the press. But when he did stare, it was still a little more brief. It feels like eternity, but it's more brief. This one was quite lengthy. So my researcher and I, we both felt it was weird. We both wrote it down independently in our notes in the courtroom. We talked about it after, and we're like, you know what? We can't be sure. We don't want to be dramatic. Then it happens again on Friday, a week later. So not the following Friday, but a week later. And this one felt more like, okay, are we crazy? It feels a little more real. I don't know. I could be wrong still. But so Friday, we're sitting in the same exact seats, first row of the press pews. However, there is a row of counsel in front of us. Now, a lot of the witnesses, they'll have their attorneys, family, and friends. Like that's why we were sitting behind Cassie's attorney and Cassie's husband. They'll sit right in the pew in front of us. Mia, she was testifying. Her friends and family and her attorneys are in the pew right in front of us, and it's packed. It's jam-packed. And the whole day on Friday, all the press members are complaining about how they can't see anything. And we're in the first row of the press. And it was difficult for me to see sitting like this. Like I couldn't see the witness and the defendant. Like I could see the witness, I could see Mia, but I can't see the defendant that well. So my entire neck was crooked the entire time. So my researcher is focusing on the witness and her body language. And I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on the defendant then because I got to turn my neck. We can't just keep moving our heads because we don't want to bother the press behind us. So my head is poked out like this. I had to put pus on my neck. That's how I'm trying to describe how much my neck was turned. So on Friday, there's this moment where there's a sidebar. Sean Combs' attorneys are near the front of the courtroom with the judge. And regardless, the jurors are still sitting on the side. Sean Combs turns around, but he turns to his right. So his mom is right behind him. It might have been easier for him to turn left. Maybe not, because maybe he's right-handed, but he does like a full turn. So he turns right, he glances over at our side of the courtroom, not like our side, but where we're sitting. And then he talks to his mom. And then he's smiling, nodding at her. He's like mouthing, I love you. And then my neck is tilted still because I'm observing him and I'm taking notes about him talking to his mom during this sidebar. And as he's making his turn back to the front, it felt like we make awkward eye contact. And I say awkward to the point where I'm like, you know, when it's so awkward, you almost like instinctively smile or look down because you're like, oh, I just got caught staring at someone. That was the feeling. It was like, oh, I literally just got caught staring him down. And he starts rubbing his chin with his left hand and mouths what appears to seem like, I know you, I know you. And this time it seemed more pronounced because as he's rubbing his chin with his left hand, he does like a slight index point. It's not like a point. He's not pointing his finger, but it's kind of like a hand gesture, like I know you, like kind of like you, like almost pointing at you, whoever you is. Then he turns to the front. And it was just so odd. And regardless, to us, not to us, it was intense. It was odd. Maybe he's talking about the whole press as a whole. I don't know. Weird.
So to clarify, right? So Stephanie clearly feels like it was really uncomfortable eye contact along with mouthing, I know you. And even the phrase itself, I know you, sounds really off. Like, what does that mean? You know me.
Yeah. Okay. So even the first time that he did it, the previous Thursday, right? Like my researcher was a bit more firm than me. And she's like, no, he was literally looking and I saw it. Like I'm watching from the side.
And also, just to clarify, I think it is normal for them to know a lot of the press.
Oh, yeah. I
they're
think
doing research every day, seeing what everyone's talking about.
I think
it's completely normal and we're expected of that. But the fact that he's mouthing that feels a little bit more intentional. Like, what does that mean? Right?
Yeah. I think if they don't know every single person in the press pew, the attorneys are not doing their jobs right, especially if he's paying that much money. I think that they should probably know every single person in that courtroom, maybe not the public, but everybody else. Yeah, I mean, you're having a lot of the same familiar faces over and over again. And these are the people that are going outside and telling the world what is happening that's maybe not on the transcript. And so it makes sense that he would know every single member of the press, right? But it was just like, I think the intensity of the stare was a lot. It just is an intense moment. And I think the first time it happened, my researcher was a bit more firm in the sense of like, no, he was saying, I know you. Because I thought, well, maybe he was saying, how are you to somebody? Who knows, right? But then the second time he does like the finger point. So it was just weird. And again, he knows us, he doesn't know us. Does it really matter? I don't think so. But I did almost pee myself. Like, that's all I'm trying to say. Now, with that being said, Sean Combs walks into the courtroom, black sweater. This is a different day. And the attorneys, it's so interesting. I feel like as the trial progresses, he can't even hide it. His real mannerisms are starting to show because every single thing just reminds me of a commanding businessman. And I'm just going to give you like a scale of his businessman poses. Anytime he sits and he listens to a witness testimony, he will have a default businessman pose that he sits in. And sometimes it's a lot more pronounced than others. But right when he walks into the courtroom, he looks like the president of the board meeting. All the attorneys are standing, waiting to hug him, waiting to greet him. Meanwhile, the prosecution, they look like they're not here to play games. Combs sits down on his chair. On either side, he's got Nicole Westmoreland standing behind him on his right side. On his left side, he's got Brian Steele. And they're both standing behind him with one hand on the back of Diddy's chair. And they're crouched over and talking to him. They're both whispering to both sides of his face. And it's like two consultants going over a business deal with the CEO. And Sean Combs is just staring straight ahead. Meanwhile, Tenny Garagos and Mark Agnifilo walk in. Combs stands up. He pulls out Tenny's chair for her, even helps her scoot in, which apparently she's 4 months pregnant with her second child. Mark Agnifilo, also very busy. He is the type of student that I feel, even before a test, everybody else in the classroom is like, you know what? If I fail, I fail. He's the one that still knows in his textbook until the very last moment. He's not talking to anybody. He's just studying his notes. And to give you an idea, Judge Arun The judge, very firm, but he's also kind of sick of everyone right now. For example, in a sidebar, both sides are only allowed to have 2 lawyers from each side at the sidebar. But the defense team, because they have practically a whole football team of lawyers, they always consistently have more than 2 lawyers that go to the sidebar. And maybe Mark Agnifilo can see that the judge is getting annoyed because he mentions to him, I know you have a 2-lawyer rule at the sidebar and I know we've been breaking it, so I'm guilty. And the judge just says, well, it's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You get a few lifelines, but you're running out. And it's going to be a very intense day. The next witness on the stand is Capricorn Clark. Everybody has been anticipating her testimony, considering she's the one that has claimed she was kidnapped by Sean Combs. I mean, that's a lot to unpack. Capricorn Clark, she walks in looking so casual. Like a lot of the other witnesses, they've come in very well dressed, very well refreshed. They don't look happy, but they look like they're ready for a fight. They look like they're ready for battle. They look like they're ready for testimony. They look like they're prepared. Capricorn Clark walks in and she looks like, this doesn't even look like Monday at her work. This feels like a Wednesday after a crazy Taco Tuesday. Like, that's the vibe. Her hair is tied back. She has on these giant eyeglasses that cover half of her face. She doesn't look like she has much makeup on. She's wearing a white shirt, super thin, and a pinstripe skirt. What's interesting is if you actually look at photos of her leaving the courthouse, she's not wearing that same outfit. She's actually wearing a pinstripe vest and nothing underneath. So it's like a tank vest and you can see her belly button. It's cropped. You can see the tattoos on her arm and it's a perfect match with her skirt. I don't think the prosecutors liked that. So someone gave her a long sleeve white t-shirt.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
When she walked in, someone made her change.
It seems like it. I don't know if it was the prosecutors or her own counsel, or maybe it was one of her friends. I don't know. But someone was like, maybe you should wear this.
So someone changed her out of the vest?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you could see tattoos, you could see a lot of shoulder, which, I mean, it's court, right? I guess no shoulders. And you could see her belly button. So I don't know whose shirt it is. She walks in and you can just... I think the minute she walks in, you can kind of tell that she's already going to have a very interesting testimony because she just looks like she is not very prepared for the testimony. And it seems like everybody else is very prepared for the testimony. They've talked it over with counsel. Like, this is something that they knew and they were anticipating was going to happen. Capricorn Clark looks like she's already crying on the way to the witness stand. Like, she looks very relatable in the sense of like, because same, I would also be a wreck. That's what it feels like. Now, Combs is doing the same thing where everyone in the pews, they're turning with Capricorn Clark as she's walking like she's a bride down the aisle. We're all like watching and turning our bodies facing the front with her. Sean Combs does not look back until she's in his view, and then he'll just watch her go to the witness stand. And with that, she takes the stand. There's a reason why the sun is hot and the sky is blue. Just like there is a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. For more than 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people, fighting for regular, everyday people across the country with over 100 offices and more than 1,000 lawyers nationwide, having recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 clients. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. In Florida, a client received $12 million after the insurance company offered $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million, 40 times the insurance company's offer of $650,000. The truth is, if you pick the wrong law firm, you might be setting yourself up to lose before you even get started. All law firms are not the same. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/rotten or dial pound law, pound 529 from your cell phone. That's FORthepeople.com/rotten or pound law, pound 529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement. Now, we did a quick sweep of some old gossip blogs just to get an idea of how this was going to go. Capricorn Clark, if you knew about the music industry well, if you knew some of like the more figures in the music industry, so not just, oh, this celebrity, this artist, this musician, but their managers, their assistants, their staff, their personnel, you would probably know Capricorn Clark. She was Combs' assistant and manager of his clothing brand, but she's also friends with celebrities like Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. She seems a bit like a socialite in her own right. That's how people talk about her in these gossip blogs. But out of nowhere, someone that has always been with Sean Combs, she suddenly gets fired. And so all these gossip blogs, like 10 years ago, they start speculating, why did she get fired? Why did she get fired? There's rumors that she was fired for stealing from Diddy. He shut those rumors down. There were rumors that she was having intimate relations with Diddy, and then Cassie found out. Those are later shot down. It's just so much is happening. With one post from 2014 on a gossip website reading, "Old tea, but I heard Diddy brought Cassie into the bedroom with Capricorn." One gossip blog enthusiast writes, in 2015, she and Cassie developed a very close bond like sisters, and Capricorn started noticing that Diddy was rejecting Cassie's music to keep her under his thumb. This is in 2015. So Cap would tell Cassie that she could do better, and Diddy didn't like that, so he would start telling Cass that Cap was the one leaking bad stories about her, and that whenever Cass wasn't around, Cap would belittle her, and eventually Capricorn quit. So that's what they're hypothesizing is why Capricorn is no longer in Diddy's circle. But now, Capricorn's Instagram is private. Her bio just reads, "Nothing to see here. Everything not saved will be lost. Tell the truth, shame the devil." With a lot of people thinking that Sean Combs is the devil. Because even around the time of Cassie's lawsuit, there was a tweet that has since been removed and her ex has gone in private. But Capricorn Clark allegedly tweeted, "Don't take the path of the wicked. Don't follow those who do evil. Stay away from that path. Don't even go near it. Turn around and go the other way." Another one, she adds, "Doors be unlocked. You gotta be willing to walk away from the money. Full stop. 2011 was hell. Tragic kingdom." She also does another one that's more clearly aligned with Sean Combs. "Black women end up being the sacrifice. For the last 11 years of my life, I had to deal with everyone's nonsensical allegiance to the devil. They will skin you and wear you, baby girl, and then pretend that they never wanted your skin." Kim was the only person who didn't switch up, the only one. "Dark times. I'm personally very triggered. I pray it's over. I never deserved this. Stop. Hashtag protect black women IRL. Hashtag RIP Kim." And it's a picture of her and Kim Porter.
Wow.
So clearly, she has very strong feelings. And she starts off the direct by giving some background. She says that she's always been in the music industry. She interned at Def Jam Records, which is a massive music label. Then she was with Death Row Records with Suge Knight, which is Bad Boy Records' constant nemesis. This is the origins of the Tupac and Biggie rivalry. She also mentions that, quote, "My mother died, and then shortly thereafter, my father died." And this is like 2 seconds of her taking the stand. She's already about to cry, and she sounds like she's crying already. And some of the defense attorneys look at each other like, what the fuck? I guess that they don't like the instant going into sympathetic territory. I will say that Capricorn Clark is probably the most, second, top 3 most captivating witnesses. I mean, she just talks in a way where I feel like you just know everything she's saying, she's probably oversharing. That's the feeling. You feel like she's gonna get very messy on the stand, but maybe it's good because it makes her feel very transparent. Even when she's asked to identify Combs, she closes her eyes dramatically and she's like, "Blue sweater." It was like a nearly black, very dark navy blue sweater. So everyone did kind of look at each other like, wait, are we sure? But yes. Now, she's very intriguing. She sounds like a smoker, has a very raspy voice, and she sounds like she is 2 seconds away from sobbing with every question. It's not like she's 2 seconds away from being emotional, so she's getting choked up. It sounds more like, you know when people sob and it's more of like audible? Like, ah. It sounds like she's 2 seconds away from that. She mentions that she works with Death Row. Then her very next job is Bad Boy Entertainment with Sean Combs in 2004 as his personal assistant. And it's a bit of a switch considering she didn't just work for Sean Combs' nemesis and competitor Suge Knight. They're actually very close in some respects. Capricorn's best friend has children with Suge Knight. So it's very complicated. What? And right off the bat, Prosecutor Steiner is coming in asking all the questions. And Ms. Clark, I want to direct your attention to December of 2011. Were you working for Mr. Combs at that time? Yes. So I'm trying to, and again, because you only get the transcript, and I feel like it's very hard to understand why the jurors might have different receptions to different testimonies. And a lot of it is so much in the delivery and the voice and the tone, because I think a lot of the times it conveys whether or not you believe this person. So if I'm just reading the transcript, it's like, she says, yes, right? But in reality, it's more like, yes, it's very raw.
It's so beautiful. Oh, thank you.
What occurred at that time? I was kidnapped. So the jurors, they immediately start taking notes. They look back up and Combs is very still, statuesque. Generally, what were your duties as a personal assistant? To shadow him from before he wakes up until he releases me at night? Which even just the way she words things is very interesting. Like, what do you mean he releases you at night? She explains that after working as his personal assistant, she quits and then comes back a little while later to work as the director of marketing for Shanjan Women's and then the global of Shanjan Women's. And then later she comes back as Cassie's manager or like the creative director for Cassie. And so when she's asked about Shanjan, she says, it's a new tentacle from the master brand of Shanjans that I was in charge of. And again, everyone's just taking notes. And meanwhile, Combs is still just staring right ahead. His mom walks in late during the direct testimony. He doesn't even notice. Everybody is so absorbed in Capricorn Clark's testimony. Capricorn is shown pictures of a few of the security guards for Combs. And it's interesting because even when she's looking at the pictures on the evidence screen, she looks like these security guards are about to jump up and attack her out of the screen. Like she looks scared to look at the screen. She's like wincing and kind of glancing at the screen. And she is very descriptive. She likes to put her arms out to describe people's statures. She says D-Rock is a bit more, he's about 6'3", 6'4", more slender, very solid. I would say quarterback, running back type of body. And Paul Offert, that everybody calls Uncle Paulie, he's the head of security for Sean Combs. Can you please describe his general appearance? Quiet, stoic, a bit menacing. Physically, he looks like a linebacker. There's a picture admitted into evidence. And is this picture how Mr. Offert typically looked? No. What's different? He doesn't have his glasses on, his blacked out sunglasses that he wears 100% of the time. Capricorn Clark testifies that on the very first day of the job, working as Combs' personal assistant at like 9 p.m., it's dark outside in New York City, Sean Combs and Uncle Paulie take her to Central Park. Capricorn says Sean Combs tells her, I had no clue that you had anything to do with Suge Knight when I hired you. This is her first day on the job. And he basically says to her, according to her, if anything happens, if you do anything to, I guess, mess Sean Combs up or give information or intel to Suge Knight, quote, he would have to kill me. Mark Agnifilo during this entire direct testimony is a whack-a-mole. He's constantly standing up. Objection, judge. Sustained. Miss Clark, what was Mr. Combs' demeanor when he threatened that if anything happened, he would have to kill you? Calm. How did you perceive his threats? Very serious? Why is that? I felt like there was some gravitas to the fact that he might have had issues with Suge. How did you react when Mr. Combs threatened you? And she starts sobbing and her voice gets very high-pitched. She's like, I said, we'll just have to see. That's the tone and it seems very emotional.
Like she can't even hold it back anymore.
Yeah, it's like she's starting to get very emotional.
And this is like still early on, right?
It's like 3 minutes in. During this, Combs is very stoic. He's sitting still, but his head is kind of cocked to the side a tiny bit. Meanwhile, Capricorn Clark is sitting there and she seems very anxious. She's moving around nonstop. Mark Agnifilo keeps jumping up out of his chair to object to everything. And the prosecutor asks, what do you mean by that? It meant that there was nothing I could do in Central Park to convince him that I was a trustworthy person. And I wrote down in my notes, you know when someone is drunk and emotional? I don't think she's drunk at all. I think she's completely sober. But just to give you an idea of her tone, like when someone gets very drunk, they get emotional and they start talking, it almost becomes like a kid. Do you know what I'm trying to explain? So it's more like, there was nothing I could do to convince him that I was a trustworthy person. It sounds like when you're drunk and you're trying to like explain something as you're crying, as you're emotional, but you're a little drunk. So it sounds kind of like that.
And how does that make like the jurors feel when
there
people see
are
that?
a few jurors that never seem that intrigued by anyone. Even during Cassie's testimony, I felt like they would rather be anywhere else on this planet. Like they seemed, honestly, I don't want to use the word, but they seemed bored. Like a few of them. I think most of them were very in tune and taking notes, but a few of them, they just look bored every single day that I'm there. During Capricorn's testimony, they're jotting down notes like passionately, every single one of the jurors, because the emotion is so raw. I think Cassie's testimony, a lot of the words she says evokes emotions in people, but when she says it, most of the time, she does not convey a lot of emotions. She's saying it matter of the fact, this is how I felt, this is what happened. Capricorn Clark, you can't not feel her emotions because she feels it so heavily.
So like when Stephanie came home that day, like she was saying, this is one of the most like
I think
impactful.
most impactful testimony. I think everybody felt that way because here's the thing that everyone kept saying about Capricorn Clark, and like this is the best way I could phrase it. A lot of people said she's just captivating. My feeling is if you don't already believe her, you want to believe her because of how transparent she feels. She just feels like a mess, like a friend that you're like, oh my God, you're kind of a mess and I want to help you.
Yeah.
So she's like crying. I knew that I didn't have anything to do with any of that stuff that he possibly could have had. Objection, judge. So Mark Agnifilo is just nonstop objecting to everything. Capricorn explains that she still worked for Combs after the Central Park threats because she felt like, yeah, maybe I could have been more transparent about telling him that I worked for Suge Knight prior to all of this. But there were just other alarming things that happened during the course of her employment. There's this one time. We were at MTV. He was doing MTV Press with 50 Cent. And after the interview wrapped up, myself, Puff, and Chris Lighty, which is 50 Cent's manager at the time, got in the elevator. So 50 Cent is not in the elevator. It's her, Puff, Chris Lighty, which is 50 Cent's manager. What happened in the elevator? Capricorn is explaining that Combs had an issue with 50 Cent. She doesn't dive much deeper into it, but if you watched our previous 4-part series, you know that 50 Cent is amongst a long list of... he's got a lot of career accomplishments, but he is also a professional Diddy hater. He also has recently discovered AI-generated images and how to produce them, so he's just been spamming the feed with AI-generated pictures of him in court wearing free Diddy shirts. Regardless, Capricorn Clark says, Puff told Chris because they were having some sort of issue, like, I don't really like all this back and forth. I don't like that. I like guns. What was Mr. Combs' demeanor when he said that he liked guns? Very serious. During the testimony about 50 Cent, Diddy looks over at Mark Agnifilo, who asks him a question. Diddy purses his lips like a duck and just nods slowly. I don't know what that means. Is he confirming like, yeah, I did say that? Like, I don't know. Meanwhile, 50 Cent will later take to Instagram to write, cut. Wait a minute, Puffy's got a gun? I can't believe this. I don't feel safe. Frowny face, LOL.
He's responding to this testimony.
Yeah,
okay.
But it does not get better from here. Capricorn Clark says within a few months of working for Combs, she gets accused of theft. She's had the job for a few months, and she gets accused of stealing very expensive high-end jewelry that was on loan from Jacob the jeweler. So this isn't even Sean Combs' jewelry. A lot of celebrities will get loaned big pieces for events. She says it was a diamond necklace with a cross, diamond bracelet, and a diamond watch. Miss Clark, had you stolen the jewelry? I did not. But it was in her possession at one point. Combs gave it to her for safekeeping because she's the assistant. They're traveling to Miami. She's to keep it safe. And on this travel, like before they even get on the plane to go to Miami, she realizes the jewelry is missing. What did you do when you realized that the jewelry was missing? I told the driver to stop the car and I called security and I told them to lock everybody in and search them. She tells Combs that the jewelry is missing and he's telling her, okay, well, I'm going to head to Miami for the event. You go back home to your place with Uncle Paulie, the head of security, with the blackout sunglasses. She goes back to her house in Queens where Uncle Paulie starts questioning her about the events leading up to the jewelry being missing. And then he starts searching through her entire house. She says, quote, he went through my belongings. He went through my common areas. I had a roommate and he just searched. He didn't find anything. But he tells her he's going to be back tomorrow. Like, we need to figure this out. The next day, Capricorn says Uncle Paulie comes to pick her up and he takes her to 1710 Broadway, which at this time was being converted into the new Bad Boy Entertainment headquarters, but she did not know that at this point. She just knew that when she walks in there, the whole place looks like it's under construction and abandoned. They walk in through the glass doors, her and Uncle Paulie. She says that someone she doesn't know comes and locks the front door behind them from outside the building, like you would lock your house from the outside.
That's crazy.
They walk in. She says the building is just, quote, dilapidated. She says post move out, post pre-move in, the floors weren't even really done on the levels we were on. The floor wasn't done. There was like old pieces of like, you know, permanent fixtures around that were sort of taken out. Just pretty much a gutted building. They go up to the 6th floor and it looks similar, dilapidated. Floor isn't done, nothing built yet, some old built-ins. And quote, there was a 6-foot folding table with some chairs in the middle of the room and there's another person there. So now it's Uncle Paulie, Capricorn Clark, and this gentleman who's sitting there waiting for them, which Capricorn describes as a heavyset gentleman who was chain smoking cigarettes, and she'll like do hand motions, and drinking black coffee. Can you describe the individual's appearance? Very wide, very heavy, looked like the size of 2 linebackers. He wasn't tall. He didn't stand very much either. So Uncle Paulie is a linebacker. This man is 2 linebackers. When you say size and width, he was very large? Yes. Can you describe this man's size relative to your own? Capricorn looks at the prosecutor, then she turns to the jury, and it looks like she's trying to think in her mind, like, how do I describe someone's size to a whole group of people? And she just goes for it. 5 of me across? I mean, he was very wide. Some of the jurors, they're doing like full teeth smiles and giggles because the way she's delivering the information is so, again, she's like looking at the jurors and she's like, 5 of me? Like very wide, like very descriptive. It's a pretty goofy moment in light of how serious everything's been and depressing in this courtroom. I mean, just the way that she like stands with her arms out, it's a lot. We're not used to that. The only person not amused, naturally, is Sean Combs, who just cocks his head to the right. Nevertheless, Capricorn Clark and Mr. 2 linebackers are left alone. Uncle Paulie leaves, and Mr. 2 linebackers, whom she states she never learns his name, he tells her that she has been brought to this building so that she could take a lie detector test to find out what happened to the jewelry. What, if anything, did he say would happen if you did not pass the test? He said if you fail these tests, they're gonna throw you in the East River. And she starts sobbing. The minute those words come out of Capricorn Clark's mouth, the jurors are jotting down notes. Combs looks around like he's looking at like, hello? Why is someone not saying anything? Hello? What's happening? And then finally, Agnifilo stands up. Your Honor, I'm going to object. Move to strike the last answer. Can we approach for a second? During the sidebar, Combs is leaning his elbows on his armrest, using his right hand to touch his chin. He seems very pensive, just sitting there. Meanwhile, Capricorn is up there. She's got these giant aviator eyeglasses and she'll like lift them up and wipe her tears and then push them back down and she's like fidgeting with them. And then she'll do this very animated sigh where her shoulders go all the way up and then she slumps it down and then she uses the tissue to wipe her nose. I feel like if anybody else had done that, it would come off performative and fake. But I don't know why when Capricorn Clark does it, you're just like, I don't even know her, but it feels genuine. Like that's the message and image that I think the jurors are getting.
And you feel for her, like?
I think everyone did. Everyone in the press pews was like, she might be one of the more gripping testimonies because of how you can relate to her. She just feels like a normal girl that just got thrown up on the witness stand, just way in over her head. And she's kind of a wreck. Meanwhile, at the sidebar, Mr. Agnifilo is very stressed. There's no indication that any of this is coming from the defendant. I mean, we don't even know who this man is, which even if it is to be believed, I'm not here to quarrel with that at this point. There's nothing saying that Mr. Combs wanted any of this to happen, so it's unduly prejudicial. So I think for that reason, we object to it and we move to strike it. She's with this unknown man who is giving her a lie detector test, and that connection between that man and Mr. Combs is just non-existent at this point. The judge does not agree. He rules, I don't think that's a fair characterization of the testimony, but I understand your argument. Objection is overruled. After the objection, Prosecutor Steiner goes back to asking Capricorn about what it was like to take this lie detector test in this dilapidated building after being told that she's been thrown in the East River if the results are bad. Capricorn says they strapped her up to some, quote, stuff to your chest and then strap some stuff to your arms and then they ask you a series of questions over and over and over again. What types of questions were you asked? Did I steal the jewelry? Did I come up with an idea to steal the jewelry? Did I plan with somebody to steal the jewelry? Had I ever stolen from him? Just a lot of stealing-centric questions. From him, was that Mr. Combs? Yes. Did this man tell you the results of the test? They said that they were inconclusive. What, if anything, did the man tell you about the results being inconclusive? It's like, I'm not getting a good reading. You need to calm down. You're going to be in the East River if I can't get a good reading on this. And she kind of sounds, again, like the drunk, panicked voice. And again, I'm not insinuating that she's drunk. She's like completely sober. And I think the reason that her testimony resonated a lot with the jurors, at least from the perception that I saw, and like even the people in the pews, is that like the words she's saying are sad, and you can like resonate with the sadness of like, yes, if I were in that situation, I too would be panicked, right? You can resonate on that level. But on a secondary level, she's incredibly likable in a sense of like, it's not just overwhelming sadness. It's like, you almost like want to give her a hug because it's like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening right now? Like, it just feels very relatable. I don't know how to put it in a way that doesn't sound like I'm minimizing her testimony, because I'm not at all. It's just in the sense of like, you feel like she's your friend. The way that she communicates feels like she's a friend, and now your friend is telling you some of the worst stuff that's ever happened to her. So you almost resonate on a deeper level. She feels like she's just telling you like exactly what's happened and how it made her feel. There's no intentional like, let me tell you in a sophisticated manner. Let me tell you in a way where I think you'll understand. She's just like saying as she's feeling it, is what it's perceived as. When he told you to calm down, how had you been reacting in that moment? I couldn't calm down. I wasn't doing a good job at calming down. So she's very passionate. She has a way of sounding incredibly honest, and she sounds just honestly relatable. I hate that word, but I don't know how else to describe it. The whole time she's sniffling, wiping her tears. Mind you, she keeps pushing those giant glasses up. She's lifting them to wipe her tears. Meanwhile, Combs is just stoically looking ahead with very little movement. The jurors are rapidly taking notes, and here's the interesting thing to note. All the jurors' notes are naturally kept in the courthouse. They're collected every single day and given back at the start of each court day. But at the very end, after the verdict, notes are permanently destroyed. So they're writing in their notes. Capricorn is telling them as they're taking their notes that she was there for a full work day that Monday. They're intermittently all day taking the lie detector test, taking it. We weren't allowed to leave. The door was locked from the outside. She did not attempt to leave the building because she says, I was there to prove my innocence. At the end of the day, Uncle Paulie takes her home and he tells her that they're going to do this all over again the next morning. And they do for the next 5 days. She said she's doing a 9 to 5 getting a lie detector test all week long. Why did you continue to go with Mr. Offord, Uncle Paulie, to the building? I wanted to prove my innocence. I didn't like the threats. I felt like it was the only way to prove that I had nothing to do with it. I was in a different headspace. I was just trying to survive it. She says that she never tries to reach out to law enforcement for her 5-day lie detector marathon because she worked under an NDA. She didn't even think about calling the cops. And after those 5 days, Uncle Paulie just tells her, yeah, you're going to go home. Next Monday, she just goes back to work. Sean Combs acts like nothing ever happened. Nobody ever did find the jewelry. It didn't make sense for Capricorn to quit because she's saying, I mean, I felt like if I had left, it would have been written off as I had stolen it anyway. And then likely she would never be able to work in the industry. Now, side note, during the entirety of the lie detector testimony, one of Combs' closest friends who's known him for decades, he's been inside the courtroom every single day, sitting in the friends and family pews, and he's falling asleep. And I really try to focus mainly on jotting down notes on everyone's reactions to things rather than getting absorbed in my own personal reaction. But that was kind of interesting to me because, sir, is that like a normal Tuesday? Like, have we just all gone through lie detector tests? Like the way that he was, because I'm thinking if I'm sitting there and there's a woman on the stand spewing lies about my childhood best friend, would I not be like awake and this is crazy? But he was falling asleep. He was like fully in REM. Now, Capricorn is asked, generally, what hours were you required to work as Mr. Combs' personal assistant? Probably start the day at his townhouse at 74th and Park at 9 o'clock in the morning and finish at Daddy's house or wherever we were sometime around 4 a.m. Daddy's house is the studio, not like Daddy's house. She says that she would get no breaks throughout the day for basic needs like eating. On a good night, getting 4 hours of sleep. On a bad night, 2 hours of sleep. And this is probably putting it very lightly. 2 of Sean Combs' other former assistants testified. And this is how David James, he was another former assistant, he describes it. And side note, there is a really weird skit of David James and Diddy that I'm gonna put in the video because maybe it gives you an idea of like his tone of voice and stuff. But it's about Diddy being allergic to bitch-ass disease.
It's David. I'm here to go over your schedule for the day.
How do I know you haven't been infected with the bitch-assness disease? You were supposed to be here an hour ago.
I know, sir, but I got stuck in traffic trying to get here from the studio.
Excuses. First sign of bitch-assness. Did you bring my iPod with you for my run this morning?
I think I forgot it, sir. Let me go get it right now.
David has been infected with the bitch-assness disease.
Which, don't be a bitch ass, is, I guess, the end statement of the video. David James walks into the courtroom.
Dave James was before Capricorn.
Yeah, days before Capricorn. He seems less prepared in the sense of like, not the answering of the questions, but he walks in and it's like a restaurant. He's kind of waiting for the hostess to guide him to the witness seat is like what it feels like. He's just awkwardly staring and it's just uncomfortable. And in court, he's asked, generally speaking, Mr. James, what were your responsibilities as a personal assistant for Mr. Combs? How long do we have? He just starts listing everything he needed to do. Make every environment for him comfortable so he could perform his duties. There was a lot of organization of his personal items, traveling around the world with him, basically be at his right-hand side wherever he was. So what you want to do is you have to arrive at his house before he wakes up in the morning. It's important that you set the environment up as soon as he wakes up so he's able to have a successful day. So that would be to compile different documents. One of those documents, we have a folder on the table that would be everything that he needs to approve from a business perspective. If there is a certain artwork for an album he's doing, certain advertisements he has to approve. There would be a file of business documents, and next to that would be his business schedule for the day that he would have laid out. We'd also have a folder for all the press clippings for any news mentions of Mr. Combs in the last 24 hours. So like this man knows everyone in the press pews. Like you can't tell me he doesn't know everyone in the press pews. He just seems like he's intrigued by the press on him, okay? Which... I'm just saying, but more on that later. Continuing on, I would turn on the TV for him to his preferred channel, and I would work with the chef to make sure breakfast was getting started, and then I would knock on the door to get the day going and get his feedback as to if he was ready to wake up, if we needed to make adjustments to his schedule. From there, he would wake up and we would wait for him to be done with his breakfast. We would call down to security to let them know that Mr. Combs is getting ready to move out for the day, and we would travel around the city, especially New York City. Then it's dinner, which he later notes it's pretty standard for Combs to have a 3-hour dinner. Then it's studio for work on an album, quote, that would take us to about 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and then from there we would either go back to his personal residence or to a destination of his request, and we would get a call time at the end of the night. It was important that I didn't leave his side until I got the call time to know what time to be back tomorrow. I would text the executive team, his security staff, and let them know what time I'd be back for tomorrow once I got that call time.
At like 4 a.m., 5 a.m.?
Yeah.
Wow.
So generally, what were your hours? I would say my hours would start 30 minutes before he woke up until he gave me that call time at the end of the night, which could be anywhere between, 4 in the morning to 8 in the morning.
Wow.
How many days per week were you on duty? Depending on the personal staff at the time, some days it would be 6 days a week. There were times I worked 3 weeks straight. When we had more executive staff, I would work sometimes 5 days a week. All of that, and David James was paid $70,000 a year. Which, side note, it seems that Mr. Combs is very particular about how he likes everything done. Another former personal assistant that testified, George Kaplan, he says he has to make sure all of Combs' toiletries in his bathroom are facing forward, and the process of making sure all of these little things and adjustments were made before he wakes up would take at least 30 minutes. Now, back to the press part. There was one incident where David James says he was off that day, but still at the Combs residence. I was sitting at the computer in his office. I was working on a research project for Mr. Combs. He wanted to get new tattoos, so I was looking up different options for him. He entered the house at the time. He had been at the club with Miss Ventura, another assistant, and security. As soon as he entered the door, he beelined straight towards me, and he came right over to me, looked over my shoulder, asked me what I was doing, and I said, I'm doing a research project for you, sir. He told me that someone was lying on him, and someone did a blog post that somebody hit Cassie, and he looked at my browser history to see what websites I had been visiting that night. So he was following gossip blogs too.
Diddy was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he comes home and he's like, are you the one that wrote the gossip blog? And he's like checking the browser on David James's history.
Oh.
David is like, I did not. It was jarring. He'd never done anything like that. Now, side note, I did find the old gossip post. I think this is the one that they're referencing, but it reads, according to a reliable source, Diddy beat the shit out of Cassie for talking to another guy. He pushed her to the ground and kicked her in the face, and this is not the first time he's hit her. Details to follow. David James says that during his interview, Vashta, the senior VP of Human Resources, pointed to a picture, this is before he's even hired, pointed to a picture of Sean Combs on the wall, and she allegedly tells him, this is Mr. Combs' kingdom. We're all here to serve in it. It's very intense. There's a whole multi-step interview process where at the end, David James is asked by Sean Combs why he should be hired, and he tells Mr. Combs, I can't stop, I won't stop. And he said that at that point, Sean Combs was nodding his head like, yeah, I like that. David James also mentions in his direct that he was given a lie detector test after a Cartier bracelet went missing. And he says that Uncle Paulie came, searched his things, did not find anything, and then gave a lie detector test. At this point, Combs passes another note to Tenny Garagos. He rests his arm on the armrest, and then he's like watching for her reaction as she's reading his little post-it in the courtroom. It's weird. Sometimes he does that. He'll like watch the attorneys react to his post-it note. And then I always wonder, because, you know,
And
like,
does the attorney react or say anything, or
like they'll give him a nod, and then sometimes, like, I think he wants them to pass it to the person doing the cross. So then he'll like kind of motion for them to like, hello. It's very interesting. Yeah. He's definitely heavily involved. Like, these attorneys are not running their own defense and he's just their client. Like, he's calling a lot of shots. Oftentimes, even during cross-examinations, they'll say, "One moment, Your Honor." And then the attorney that's doing the cross-examination will go talk to Diddy, come back and say, "No further questions." So it's interesting. Now, David says that he took 2 lie detector tests during his time working for Combs. He says, "I was invited to what almost looked like a government building. It was kind of a tall skyscraper. And I met with a gentleman who said he was a former FBI lie detector. And at this point, the whole courtroom laughs. Is it funny? No. Are we just like full of tension? Yeah." He's like, lie detector. I guess you could call it. And he was like the most, you know, specialist lie detector agent in America. Who told you that? The gentleman did. The lie detector? Yeah. And again, everyone giggles again. It was very intimidating. I don't know if you've ever taken a lie detector test before, but you basically sit in a chair where they monitor your movements. They put a heartbeat monitor on your chest. I believe they put something on my head and something in my hand. The lie detector tells him, "You know, Mr. Combs does not like people who steal. That's like one of his big things." And he basically told me we had to get rid of the rat on the team. He takes the first for the missing Cartier bracelet, the second one for a Jacob & Co. watch. Also, Combs seems super paranoid, if not already evident by the copious amounts of polygraphs he allegedly forced everyone to take. But David James states every time they're in the car, if Mr. Combs had a Maybach, he would want to have a second car to his right. That way someone couldn't pull up on him, for example, and try to assassinate him or shoot him, which is how Biggie died. So he would always follow him around like security detail.
who would? A second car?
Yeah.
Like, is he driving the second car?
So Combs would be in the first car, and then the second car would be filled with staff. So David James would probably be in the back of the second car.
Wow.
Yeah. And Combs was never without security detail. Honestly, this whole thing just sounds like the worst job on the planet. They said the motto at the Combs Enterprise Company was, "What rhymes with tired? Fired." All of this, and Capricorn Clark is just getting paid $65,000. She states on the stand, while working for Combs, she developed a medical condition called alopecia. Side note, very odd timing, but right at this moment, Sean Combs takes out his retainer out of his mouth. Like, he has a retainer in his mouth and he just fully just like slobber and all takes it out of his mouth.
Puts it on the table?
He like wraps it in a napkin.
Oh.
What is alopecia? It's a stress-induced condition where you get bald patches on your head. Capricorn says that she went to HR at this point to tell them, hey, look, quote, "I'm working basically 24/7 and I'm not making enough money." And she sat with me to calculate my overtime. Vashta from HR, the same Vashta Dunlap, okay? And they go to calculate Capricorn's overtime. She comes back with this giant sheet of paper and tells Capricorn, and now Sean Combs, who's sitting there, you know, she said that I was owed $80,000 per 3-month period in my assistant era. How did Mr. Combs respond?
Wait, she's owed?
Yeah, for all the overtime. She's owed $80,000 by Sean Combs.
Oh, okay.
And how did Mr. Combs respond? He ripped up the paper. She was not paid the overtime. Instead, Sean Combs would seemingly make her sit through life lessons where he would sit a bunch of women down that work for him and work with him once in the kitchen of his massive LA mansion. What did Mr. Combs discuss with you at that time? He was discussing with us why we didn't have a man like him. What did he do? He said, "Let me show you something." What did he do next? He called Cassie over and he asked her to sit down, stand up, turn around. And she's like using her hand. She's full into this. Turn the other way. Well, walk over there. Grab that. Hand me that. Walk back. Turn back. Go back to the other room. What did Miss Ventura respond? She did it. She followed each of his instructions? Yes. And after Miss Ventura left the room, what, if anything, did Mr. Combs say? He said, "Did you see that?" He said, "You bitches don't do that. That's why you don't have a..." So anytime she does Sean Combs' voice, she's like fully in it. So she's like, he said, "Did you see that?" He said, "You bitches don't do that. That's why you don't have a man." To which we said, "You're motherfucking right." And the jurors are giggling. Meanwhile, Tenny Garagos looks over at Mark Agnifilo. She looks disgusted. Her mouth is slightly ajar, like shock. I don't think that she's looking disgusted at her client per se. I think she's trying to I don't think she's trying to convey anything in her reaction. I think her reaction is like, I can't believe she would make up such a wild lie. Now, do we think it's a wild lie? I mean, I guess that's up to you, but that's what Tenny is showing Mark. The jurors don't see it because they're all smiling. Like, just the way she said, you're motherfucking right, was like a lot. Like, the whole, I think we didn't even know how to respond.
Yeah.
Eventually, Mark Agnifilo requests a sidebar where Combs turns around and says, I love you to his mom. And she mouths, I love you back. There's just a lot of like tongue movements. I don't know how to describe it. And again, I don't know if this is even worthy of including in an episode, but I'm just trying to see like all the things that we've noticed, and like we have, like my researchers and I have all noticed similar things, and we've almost like coined different terms for it. Like, you know how everyone says Mark Zuckerberg is a lizard? I feel like maybe all billionaires are lizards. A few members of the Combs family have very interesting mannerisms with utilizing their tongue. So Sean Combs, he will lick his lips, and when he licks them, he does them so quickly. And he'll like stick his tongue out and do like 3 licks of his lips very rapidly. And we always try to understand when and why he does it, and if it's just his lips are dry or if it's like something else, I don't know. And then Christian Combs does this thing where it seems like when he feels defensive, he kind of sticks his tongue out of his mouth to the side, like.
I see.
But it's always in very specific moments. So I think we're just trying to understand what those moments are. And then even when his mother is saying, like, she very dramatically says, I love, like her tongue almost touches the tip of her nose when she says love and love.
Wow.
Yeah, and we both wrote it down, and I thought maybe I'm like paying too much attention to random stuff. But my researcher and I were cross-referencing notes, and we're like, oh yeah, that was kind of intense. I don't think it means anything. I mean, it seems like his mom really does love him. He blows kisses. She smooches the air. Meanwhile, Mark Agnifilo is very busy at the sidebar. This is becoming just a wholesale character assassination. I'm not sure what many of these things have to do with the charges. The judge tells the prosecutor to move on with the line of questioning. But I think the effect on the jury is already kind of done. I've never seen the jurors more engaged in Capricorn's testimony. She just has this way about herself. Again, the best way I described it to my husband when I got home after the testimony was, if you don't already believe what she's saying, you want to believe what she's saying. Because she's just so emotionally transparent that you cannot fathom someone could make this up. Like, for example, even listening to her is just fascinating. When she's asked about what Mr. Combs did when he received €100,000 for a club appearance in Europe, she just responds like crinkling her eyebrows. She looks at the prosecutor like, what kind of dumb question is that? And she goes, keep it? And they're like trying to ask, where did he keep it? But she's like, keep it? I don't know. So it's just very real. Capricorn goes on to detail that Sean Combs likes to throw phones at people when he's upset. He would do that often. That's like his thing. And he was not just violent with Cassie. He was also violent with his staff, including Capricorn Clark. She says there was this one time in his mansion on Two Star Island in Miami where he sends Capricorn on an errand. Pharrell Williams, who was a music producer, now he's...
Louis Vuitton.
You know who he is, yeah. His manager came over and was dropped off by boat. Because this is an island. Everybody has like a boat driveway on Two Star Island or on Star Island. And so he's dropped off by boat, but then he has to go to another island where Pharrell Williams is shooting a music video. So Mr. Combs is like, hey, Capricorn. And I say Mr. Combs, sorry, because the prosecutors call him Mr. Combs. Sean Combs is like, hey, Capricorn, go drop him off at the other island. She hops in the boat with him, drops him off, but then she decides to stay on that island for like about an hour hanging out. An hour into it, she gets a phone call from Sean Combs. He's like, where the fuck are you? And again, when she is doing Sean Combs's like quotes, it's very intense. And like all the jurors, they're engaged. What did you do after you got that call? I went back to Star Island. What, if anything, did Mr. Combs tell you when you returned to Star Island? He said, see, your problem is you want a life and you can't have that here. And then she's just like wiping tears, you know? So the next morning, Capricorn wakes up. She goes to the kitchen to get some breakfast. I was making my plate. The chef was there. She was tired. I asked her where the turkey bacon was. And she said, there is no more fucking turkey bacon. She was very upset from a long night. And I just said, I hate it here. And then the chef walks outside, quote, to where Puff was standing on the back deck and told him what I said. It exacerbated her. He immediately looked at me and he said, you hate it here? And then he charged at me. At this point, she's holding herself in a hug while she's telling this story. When you say he charged at you, can you describe what he physically did to you? He ran towards me with his hands open and like pushed me by my shoulders, and she's using her hands to like motion. And he started pushing me back. In what direction was he pushing you? Out towards the front entrance of the kitchen through the butler's pantry. Approximately how far did he push you? About 25, 30 yards? The jurors are incredibly engaged. Even Sean Combs is taking down notes. And how was he pushing you? Just to make sure the record is reflecting the witness with open hands. Open hands, like right on my shoulder, like, you know? And she shows again. The top of your shoulders. What, if anything, was Mr. Combs telling you while he was pushing you in this way? He said, "You hate it here? Get the fuck out of my house. You hate it here? Get the fuck out of my house." Yeah, and he repeated it until we were outside. Can you describe the amount of force that Mr. Combs was using when he was pushing you? I would say like 75%. I never fell. I kept catching myself. Eventually, Uncle Polly comes to tell her to pack her things, and she does, and then she leaves. But she comes back to work for Mr. Combs again, and this time she says she only came back because her role was not his personal assistant. It was as his global brand director for Sean John. So he told her specifically he's not going to interact with her as much, and that's the only reason she came back. He was very impressed with her new work when she was gone, so at this point she signed with a record label. She was managing Sierra's newest album and R. Kelly's newest album at that point. She says Puff was very impressed with my work and was like, "I'm starting a women's line. You wouldn't have to work directly with me, but you can work for me and it'll be something right up your alley." And it was paying more than Samba Records was. She also worked closely with Cassie. "I was her creative director and manager." And in 2011, she became more close with Cassie. She starts learning that she's dating Kid Cudi, Scott Mescudi, which she kind of admits put her in a tricky situation because she can't tell Combs about the relationship, obviously. But one day in particular, Cassie sends Capricorn a text. And this is where it all started kind of making sense. Remember, I was like, why is Brian Steele asking Kid Cudi about exercising? She says, quote, "I was picking Cassie up one day. We were going to Runyon Canyon, which is a place in Los Angeles where you hike. And she asked if Kid Cudi could join us." Cassie texted Capricorn, "How did you react when you received that text message?" "Not well. It was a bad idea." I responded, "I don't think we should go to Runyon. There's too many people there. If he comes, we need to go to Fryman Canyon. Delete this text." Combs lizard licks his lips a little and then slightly shakes his head whilst kind of turning to the jurors. Like, you see that? Like they're all plotting to cheat. Like it felt very like, I've been wronged type of head shake. "Why did you direct Miss Ventura to delete the text?" "Because that's the second everything got so tricky when she texted me. Mr. Combs paid for my phone. She's texting me on the phone he pays for, on a phone he pays for. It's not a good idea." After what happened, did Miss Ventura change the way that she communicated with Mr. Mescudi? "Yes, I took her to Best Buy to buy a burner phone." So she's saying she's the one that bought the burner phone. "Why did you take her to Best Buy to buy a burner phone?" "The way she was moving, she was going to get us all killed."
Oh.
Mark Agnifilo stands up. "I'm sorry." Sustained. Before he even says objection, sustained. The jury should disregard the witness's last answer. At this point, there's kind of an awkward laugh in the courtroom because it's like we all expected him to jump up with an objection.
Right.
Like Capricorn really just be saying things. I'm not saying like saying things as in they're not true. I'm just saying like no filter, truly saying everything on her mind. Everybody knew that these objections were coming. Now, the day that Capricorn Clark is kidnapped is the same day that Kid Cudi's house is broken into, and it's all connected. So remember, the same day, Scott Mescudi, Kid Cudi, gets a call from Cassie that Combs found out about them, and she gave him his address. So he picks her up, and they go to the Sunset Marquee. Well, Capricorn at the same time, she hears banging on her apartment door. She wakes up, runs to the peephole, and she sees, quote, a very upset Puff. He was pacing, and she like does the motions. He was moving around a little bit. He was just anxious, I could tell, but he was furious. That was evident. Can you describe the movement of his body outside your door? He's pacing, and the body language looked like he had something in his hand. Why do you say that? Can you describe what you observed? Just like the body language. I could see his shoulder. It was like something in his hand. He was moving in his hand. I mean, I couldn't really see the peephole all the way down to his hand, but the body language was giving me like he's holding something. The way that Capricorn is acting it out, again, adds a lot to her credibility, in my opinion. It's just very descriptive. Like, you really see everything that's happening. Meanwhile, Sean Combs is sitting in the courtroom, absolutely still. Why did you open the door for Mr. Combs? He was upset. Part of my job is to make sure that the name and likeness is okay, and he's outside my door. I gotta be like, what is this? Can you describe Mr. Combs at the time? His pants were gray, and they were split open from knee to knee through the crotch, so I could see his underwear. kind of like,
What?
you know, like assless chaps, but it seems not to have been on purpose. So like it's cut at the inseam.
It came like this, or someone cut it open?
You
or?
could buy pants like this, but I don't think this was on purpose. I think it ripped maybe in a fit of anger or something.
Oh, his pants ripped.
Yeah. Huh. Did you notice anything in his hand? A gun. And she says it like that. And what did Mr. Combs tell you once he was inside your apartment? He said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I said, "I don't know who you're talking about." He said, "Who is Scott?" I said, "I don't know any Scott." What did he say? What did Mr. Combs say after that? He said, "Kid Cudi." I said, "Oh, Cassie's friend." Then he just says, according to Capricorn, quote, "Get dressed. We're gonna go kill this." At this point, the jurors and Combs, they're all taking and jotting down notes passionately. And it's just like the way that she's doing his voice and like her, it was a lot. In the sense of like, I think people are receiving her testimony well. When Mr. Combs directed you to get dressed, how did you respond? "I don't want to go." How did Mr. Combs respond when you said you don't want to go? He says, "I don't give a fuck what you want to do. Go get dressed." I'd never seen anything like this before. He had never come to my house in the entire time I'd known him. I've never seen him with a weapon. I've never seen him making me do something like this. Combs is done taking notes. He puts his pen down on the table, leans back all the way, crosses his legs, and he's about to put his right elbow on his armchair rest and bring it up to his face. This is his like rank 10 business move. This is like full businessman. He likes to sit like he's watching someone present, like an intern present a new business deal, but he stops himself. So then he takes his arm off the armrest and just sits cross-legged. Because I think it's not a good look.
Yeah.
Did you make any attempt to escape your apartment? I did not. Why not? The way he was acting, I just felt like anything could happen. I'm gonna object, Judge. Okay, let's move on, Miss Steiner. Capricorn says she's forced to get dressed. They leave her apartment. So it's Rube, who is Ruben, another security detail. He's actually D-Rock's little brother, but anyway, he's in the driver's seat of the black Escalade. Combs hops in the back with Capricorn, and she's back there, and he now has his gun on his lap as they're driving through the Hollywood Hills to get to Kid Cudi's house. What, if anything, did Mr. Combs and Rube do after he arrived at Kid Cudi's home? They entered the house. Capricorn says that she stayed in the car, but she couldn't leave. Why were you not able to leave? I probably could have left, but I didn't. What were you afraid of if you left? Mark Agnifilo, whack-a-mole, he's back up. Objection to the leading. Sustained. What did you observe Mr. Combs and Rube do on the property? Fidget around trying to gain access, and then they gained access? What, if anything, did you do while Mr. Combs and Rube were on the property out of the car? I called Cassie. Capricorn says that she was just waiting to call Cassie on her burner phone to warn her because she didn't know if Kid Cudi was in the house. She has no clue that he's already with Cassie by this point, and she's freaking out. And what did you tell Cassie when you called her? Cassie, what the f? And I asked her, like, where she was at. What, if anything, else did you tell her? I told her that Puff came, got me with a gun, and brought me to Kid Cudi's house to kill him. When she says, brought me to Cudi's house to kill him, Combs looks over at Mark, waiting for him to pop up with an objection. Mark looks at him and does a small shake of the head and does not object. Yeah. When you were speaking with Miss Ventura on the phone, did you hear anyone else on the phone? Yes. Who did you hear? I could hear yelling in the background. What did you hear? I heard someone say, "He's in my house." Like she literally does it like that. And I said, "Who is that?" She said, "Scott." And I could hear him running out. And I said, "Cassie, stop him. He's gonna come get himself killed." And she was like, "I can't." After they hang up the phone, Combs comes out and wants to see her phone because he saw her hanging up. Capricorn, being smart, had put Cassie's burner phone number as another friend of hers, Stormy, who is also, I think, shares children with Suge Knight, but besides the point. Stormy. But that's not good enough because now Combs is asking to see her phone. He calls back the last number I was speaking to. And what did he say when he called that number back? "What the number is this?" And how, if at all, did Mr. Combs react to Cassie having or Miss Ventura having a new number?
Wait, so he called it back and he found out it was Cassie?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And Capricorn says he's livid, more so than already. What, if anything, happened after Mr. Combs spoke with Miss Ventura on your phone? We heard a very fast-moving engine coming up the hill. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see that it was Cudi. Puff looked at my face. I guess I gave him a visual cue that it was him, and he goes, "There's that right there." What happened next? Cudi pulled up next to the Cadillac Escalade, came to a complete stop, looked, and then took off and sped up the hill. Puff and Rube jumped in the car, and we started chasing him. How long was the chase? It felt like forever, but it couldn't have been longer than a minute. Cudi lost us. We turned south down Laurel Canyon. We heard sirens, and we passed the police. They were headed north on Laurel Canyon. We were headed south on Laurel Canyon. Were the police headed in the direction of Mr. Muscatti's residence? They were. Capricorn says this is when Combs finally starts to calm down. They drive to the Key Club, which is at the bottom of the Hollywood Hills. For people who lived in LA, it was formerly known as One Oak. I think it's the Key Club now. I think that's what she also said, but One Oak was like a big thing, yeah. And they're in the parking lot of One Oak or Key Club, and they don't get out. They're just in the parking lot because she's saying like there's no service in the Hollywood Hills, which also valid. So they come down and they're just using the phone. And it's just Rube, the security, Combs, and Capricorn. And Combs is telling Capricorn to get Cassie on the phone and quote, he told me to tell Cassie that he has me and he's not gonna let me go until I get her. He has me, he won't let me go until I come to you, to which Cassie said, okay, come get me. They get back to Combs' house and Combs tells Capricorn, once you get Cassie, you guys need to go tell Cuddy and convince him not to tell the police that it was me. Did he tell you anything else? He says, if you guys don't convince him of that, I'll kill all you motherfuckers. In the courtroom, Combs visibly starts shaking his head back and forth. Capricorn explains that after they get to his place, she gets into the work car, picks Cassie up from the Sunset Marquee, where Cassie and Capricorn head to Kid Cudi's house and convince him not to tell the police that this was Sean Combs. And then they get back to Sean Combs' residence. Now it's maybe 11 a.m. It's been like this all started at like 6 a.m. What happened after you and Ms. Ventura entered the home? Puff was standing there in a robe in his underwear, and he immediately began kicking Cassie. 100% full force in her legs to begin with. She was facing him to start, and he kicked her in her thigh and in her leg. He kept kicking her. He never used his hands. Combs starts taking notes in the courtroom. The jurors are also taking intense notes. And you said he kept kicking her. Was he kicking her more than once? Yes, he repeatedly kicked her, and she just kept, with each kick, she would crouch into a more of a fetal position. And as Ms. Ventura was crouching more and more into a fetal position, can you describe where she was physically located? Outside by now. We were in the courtyard of his home, just like outside the vestibule. Every time he kicked, she moved back. And every time she got kicked, she moved back. And approximately how far did Ms. Ventura get moved back from the kicks? Couple steps each time. And in total, all the way to the street, maybe 20 feet. And by the time she reached the street, can you describe what her body looked like? She was all the way on the ground in a full fetal position and crying silently. What was Mr. Combs doing to Miss Ventura in the street when she was on the ground and in a full fetal position? Kicking her? Where? It was her backside. She was on the ground. He was kicking her. Capricorn says she and Rube, the security, were both there and she's freaking out and Rube is calm. And Combs tells Capricorn, he said if I jump in, he was gonna up too. And she's like sobbing at this point. She says she didn't intervene because I'd never seen her do anything like that, and I was in shock. And in my heart, my heart was breaking seeing her get hit like that. And like the way I'm delivering it is not the way she delivered. Like she's full sobbing, like she's a wreck. I'm gonna object, Your Honor. Objection is sustained. The jury should disregard the last sentence of the witness's answer. What, if anything, did Rube do to intervene? Absolutely nothing. Who, if anyone, did you contact after you observed that Rube was not intervening? I called D-Rock. So D-Rock is Rube's older brother, and he was on the security team longer. I said, tell your brother to stop him. What did you explain to D-Rock what was happening? That he was kicking the shit out of Cassie? Capricorn reaches for a tissue and starts rubbing both her eyes. Like she's not rubbing them, like she's sobbing, like you could see. It's like just streaming down her face. Did you contact anyone else aside from D-Rock? I did. Uncle Paulie. Did you contact anyone? I didn't. Why did you contact anyone aside from D-Rock? I didn't see Rube's phone ringing, meaning like D-Rock is not calling his little brother. What did you inform Mr. Offert? Same thing. I said, Paul, he's kicking the shit out of her and help her. And she starts like fully choking up. Combs is completely still. What, if anything, did Mr. Combs tell you after you made these calls? He said, matter of fact, you get the f out of my house. Did you leave his house? On foot, yes, I walked. She takes off her glasses now, like her face is completely soaked in tears. Who, if anyone else, did you call when you left the property? Regina Ventura, Cassie's mom. What, if anything, did you inform Miss Ventura? I told her mom, I said, he's beating the shit out of your daughter. I'm in over my head. And she starts like really choking up. Please help her. Like it's like a whining sob. Like, please help her. Like, that's the best way I can try to. I can't call the police. And then she does it again, like, but you can. Like, please help her. It was really rough to listen to. I think everyone was having a hard time because I think a lot of the testimony so far In the courtroom, the emotions don't sink in as quickly because even Cassie's testimony, aside from the few times she was very emotional, everything she says is matter of fact. And then like you're so busy trying to understand where we are in the timeline. And then it's like once you get home, it soaks in and then you feel a little heavier, right? But in this, it's like all you hear are her sobs like echoing in the courtroom. And it's so hard not to like a lot of people are like wincing. After that call, Miss Clark, did you call the police? I did not. Meanwhile, Combs' head is cocked to the left. Why didn't you call the police? The mission of the day was not to get Cuddy to involve the police, so that was certainly counterintuitive. The prosecutor pulls up an email we went over during Cassie's testimony, the one from December 23rd, and the prosecutor asks her to read it out loud. And it sounds like she's being held hostage to read it. She's just constantly wiping her tears. It's the one that Cassie writes to her mom and Capricorn Clark about all the threats and that the videos might be released. She says later the arson investigator would reach out to her about Kid Cudi's car, and she just did not want to talk to him either. She said, I just wanted this whole thing to be over, and that was just going to make it worse. She's sobbing out loud. It sounds like she's almost underwater. Following the incident in December of 2011, what if any questions did Mr. Combs ask you about Miss Ventura's relationship with Mr. Muscati? He asked the same thing. When did I know about it? Why I didn't tell him? She says that he was very, very angry, and he said, quote, I should kill you and I should cut her face. In the courtroom, Combs slowly closes his eyes and shakes his head no towards the jurors, almost giving like this is absurd. How frequently after this incident in December of 2011 was Mr. Combs making threats to you? Approximately how many times? I'd say once we got to December of 2011 into that summer, I would say 50. She does mention that she told the CEO of Bad Boy, Harv Pierre, about it, to which he just says, that's crazy, but it's going to be okay. Capricorn says he also tells her that she, Capricorn, and Cassie can't really be friends anymore, that they can only interact for work. Now, there are other parts of her testimony that were cross-referenced with other testimonies, and it seems like Cassie was not the only one that was participating in freak-offs. I know that in our four-part series that we did before the trial even started, this was in 2024, there were allegations online and rumors circulating that Kim Porter was also part of the freak-offs. David James, the other assistant, says that he was part of the hotel setups. He called it advancing the hotel. So you go in advance and you make sure it's ready for Combs. He says, in New York City, for example, if he asked me to advance a hotel room, I'd go back to his apartment, I'd get like a Jordan sweatsuit, fresh pair of underwear, some socks, some slides. I'd also bring a toiletry bag, and I would bring the iPod speaker base. And then next to the Trump Hotel, which he loves, there's a Dwayne Reed there, and I'd go get there like a few different food items, applesauce, Jell-O, Fiji water, and then we'd always have some Ciroc vodka and Simply lemonade as well.
I have a bartender full time that just stands here and makes me my favorite drink. You take 1.5 ounces of Ciroc vodka, 3 ounces of lemonade, shake it up, that cool, refreshing drink.
Side note, while David is listing out everything Combs likes, Combs is sitting there like nodding ever so slightly, like, yes, okay, checking off the list. Like if someone is recounting your grocery list to them, that's the vibe. David James just continues, basically everything that he may need. He didn't always use these items, but I was always taught to provide everything just in case he needed something. That way he wouldn't need to call you later on. He also needs his infamous Louis Vuitton med bag and that he always carries, according to David. Also, $10,000 in cash, sometimes more. When describing the med bag, David says, there were probably 25 to 30 different pill boxes or pill bottles. Some of them were unmarked, so I was not familiar with what they were. Some were just like Advil, Tylenol. He had water pills to make him lose weight. He had a Viagra in there. He had some pills that helped increase his sperm count, for example. He had ecstasy and Percocets in there as well. Side note about those ecstasy pills, he says there were various kinds, but one in particular that stands out is, quote, it was in the shape of a former president's face. Which former president? President Obama. Yeah.
That's crazy.
The prosecutor asks David, when you set up these hotel rooms, did Mr. Combs stay in these hotel rooms alone or with others? I don't think Mr. Combs ever stays alone. Who did he stay with? His girlfriend at the time, mostly Cassie, but other women as well. There is an odd moment in David James's Cross where Mark Agnifilo starts asking him about all of the traveling and all of the advancing of the hotel rooms, and David James goes into a whole ketchup monologue. When they travel to London, to the United Kingdom, ketchup, Heinz 57 ketchup, like they needed that. I don't know if this is what he's saying. I don't know if you guys have ever been to London before, but the ketchup in the UK is not similar to the ketchup in America. He would not be happy. I mean, ketchup was a big item that he always needed for his food. So it's just the consistency to create a consistent environment. So during this ketchup rant, Combs is just like smiling and happily nodding along, and everybody's in a lighter mood. But then it goes from ketchup to applesauce. Side note, he eats applesauce on his cheeseburgers. Like, he eats applesauce with a lot of things. Then the conversation goes from ketchup to applesauce to Astroglide and baby oil. And at this point, I think Combs is uncomfortable with the sudden emotional shift because he raises his hands at the mention of baby oil. He rubs them in his lap like he's putting lotion on. But then he realizes it's weird because he's not putting lotion on. So then he puts them in prayer hands, and then he leans his head forward, presses his forehead into his fingers, and then moves on. It was just like a very odd set of movements. It felt like he was instinctively rubbing his hands, but thought it would be perceived weird. So he carries out the rest of this awkward set of movements. Starting a business is very scary. One day you're so excited about your big idea, and then the next day you're just Googling how to figure out shipping rates at 2 a.m. while you're also wondering if your website looks terrible. I mean, trust me, I've been there before. My family and I launched a small business selling limited edition artwork at Grandpa Mango's studio, and we were completely unprepared. It felt like the business was running us instead of us running the business. Thankfully, we found Shopify. They are the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow a business online or in person. Create a stunning platform that's made to sell and matches all your business dreams. You can design fast with AI, choose a stylish theme, or build completely custom for full control. One of my favorite parts was Shopify Admin. From back office to front of store, you're always in control with the fully centralized Shopify Admin. My mornings went from waking up super scattered and having all these notifications to having a very clear dashboard that showed me exactly what needs attention. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/rotten. Go to shopify.com/rotten. Shopify.com/rotten. Now, Capricorn Clark also testifies that she advanced many a hotel rooms, but she said mainly it was for Combs and Kim Porter. How frequently would he stay at a hotel with Miss Porter? Once a week. And what, if anything, was your role with respect to hotels when Mr. Combs would travel? To pack and bring and unpack his personal effects? And what did those belongings include? Clothes, toiletry bag, and camera bag? Camera box, actually. Camera box? It was a silver, at the time it was a silver 45 record carrier repurposed, and it had 3 click-in, 3 point-and-shoot cameras and 1 small mini DV camera. Was there anything else in the camera bag? A small bottle of baby oil and a small bottle of lube. What, if any, lighting was used in the hotel? No lighting. We brought his diptyque candles. That was that. She says on every single hotel trip with Kim Porter, they would have to bring that camera bag 100% of the time. What, if any, responsibilities did you have after one of Mr. Combs' hotel stays? To pack up his belongings and sweep the room for anything that might be left behind? What, if any, damage did you observe in the hotel rooms after his stays? Just baby oil. At the Intercontinental, I would see handprints in oil on the ultra suede walls. Yeah. How frequently did you observe damage from baby oil in the rooms? Frequently, but it was a lot it was just a lot of baby oil. It was just everywhere. It wasn't necessarily only on the walls. And if you would, which women would he bring to hotels most frequently at the time? Kim Porter, Cassie Ventura. This entire part when Capricorn is talking about freak-offs with Kim Porter, the kids are not there. Sean Combs' mother is there and she's just frozen, just listening. Later, Capricorn says she was ultimately fired for not applying properly for vacation time, but she thinks it's probably because she kept mentioning all the threats. And what do you recall, Mr. Combs, in these discussions following your termination? That I would never work again? That he would show me that all these people weren't my friends? That he would make me kill myself? In the courtroom, Combs scratches his left cheek with his left hand, just scratches his face. This is the interesting part. Later, Capricorn is asked if she reached out to Combs' attorneys, and she says yes, in which a settlement is reached. But this was in her previous termination, wrongful termination. So she quit, got terminated, and rehired so many times. But on one of the occasions, she did get paid. So she's asked by the prosecution, under the terms of the agreement, approximately how much were you paid for? I'm going to object, Judge. Which is so fascinating because if anything, the defense has been so passionate about women who receive money from Sean Combs. They've been very passionate about the figures and passionate about the demands that were made. And suddenly they do not want Capricorn to release how much she settled for. There's probably a few reasons for it. Probably one, because it was such a low amount that it would probably make the jurors go, wow, that's actually crazy. And two, there was a rumor that Suge Knight was on a podcast and he said the money to pay Capricorn Clark, that settlement money was done by Interscope Records. So that would add to RICO racketeering. Like it would make it very messy if a settlement for this type of behavior is paid by a company. Now, there's a quick sidebar in which Combs puts his chest in the air, and this is really awkward. So he like stretches his chest up as he's sitting, and then his arms are bent at the elbows like he's doing a bench press, right? It looks like he's just stretching, but he has this very awkward moment where he just like kind of pumps his fist twice, and then he stops. And I think I think he felt awkward doing it. It just felt weird. Maybe he wanted to do a bigger movement, or maybe he realized this is not a movement he wants the jurors to see. He stops himself. It's just weird. Meanwhile, Capricorn Clark is sitting there super emotional. Sean Combs' sister and the person next to her are giggling, perhaps about something unrelated. I don't know. They're just in the pews giggling during the sidebar. Mark argues during the sidebar. So the objection, I don't know the amount. I don't know that the amount is relevant. And I mean, I would say it's unduly prejudicial. I mean, I don't intend to get into it. I don't know how it advances the relevant issues in this case, what the settlement was for. Again, interesting. But they get back and the prosecutor makes sure that Capricorn states she has no pending civil litigation against Combs. She has received no other compensation aside from that. But she's also asked, why did she keep going back to work for Sean Combs? I wanted to try and get my life back. She says that she was unable to obtain any other work. She says she did get civil attorneys in 2023 after Cassie filed a lawsuit and she was upset about it. Did her complaint reference you? Not at all. I was traumatized because it did not reference you. Is that what you're referring to? She did not mention me at all. Did there come a time when you met with Mr. Combs' attorneys in April of 2024? I did. Now, side note, the attorneys that she met with are Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos.
Wow.
And during that meeting, did you inform what did you inform Mr. Combs' attorneys? That I wanted my life back. And did you discuss what had occurred during December of 2011? I did. What did you inform his attorneys? I told them that he kidnapped me and I went through the events of the day. Your Honor, I'm going to object this as hearsay, which is actually interesting because they were the ones at the meeting. The prosecutor asks Ms. Clark, were there any discussions about you working in some capacity again for Mr. Combs' companies? There was. And just generally, what was discussed? Like, what would it look like? Like, if I came in as chief of staff, got him up out of there, put him in rehab so that somebody that was around in the inception of a lot of these business deals would be back in place? Did you hear from Mr. Combs' attorneys again? No. The direct is finished soon after and the judge starts to speak. All right, so this is a good time for us to, Mr. Agnifilo stands up, like he's wound up like a spring. Can I start and then can we have a break unless we all want to stop now? Whatever you want to do. Well, we're taking a break, which is what I was doing, and then we'll come back. Oh, okay, I'll take a break too. Thank you. Members of the jury, we will take a short break. It's 11:14. We'll come back at 11:40. All rise for the jury. As everyone is leaving the courtroom, Brian Steele starts rubbing Sean Combs' back. During that break, Combs and his mom are just like having full mouthing conversations. Everybody is ushered back in. Capricorn is ushered back in at the end of the break. Combs has his right elbow on his armrest and he's got his fist up in the air and he kind of hammers it into the air 3 times. It's weird. It's like, white thing. I didn't know what that was. That's the feeling. And then the cross-examination begins. Mark Agnifilo takes the stand and immediately he starts talking about the setup of the conference table when they all met in 2024 because Capricorn met with him and Sean Combs was there. He's drawing the picture. Even Combs is looking at him, mouth slightly agape, just blinking his eyes. And Mark's whole point is how during the meeting in 2024, Capricorn asked Combs to come back to work as his chief of staff, which Capricorn states, yes, she did bring that up. And tell me if this is right. What you said was you've always been able to take care of him. I don't recall saying that. Okay, do you remember saying he wouldn't be in this mess had he kept me around? And then she looks at the jury and said, I probably said something like that, yeah. So I think Mark is again trying to prove a point, but she's just so honest. She's like, yeah, I probably did say something like that. During cross-examination, especially when they're working in his favor, Combs loves looking towards the jurors. So he's doing that a lot. And you said, tell me if this is right. You said you didn't think that Miss Ventura was good for Mr. Combs. Correct. And you believe that? Correct. Okay, do me a favor. Tell the jury in your words why you think that's true. I just felt like they were toxic as a couple. At one point, Mark says he's going to call Sean Combs Puff because that's what Capricorn is comfortable with. And the judge is constantly, like this has happened multiple times. The judge keeps saying, no, we're going to call him Mr. Combs. Okay, judge, that ends that. We're going to call him Mr. Combs.
Why does he want to call him Puff instead?
I guess it makes him more... And then I think the timeline, a lot of the jurors look like they would be from the era that Sean Combs was Puff or Puffy. Versus I feel like my age, everyone knows him as Diddy.
I see.
And like the older groups know him as Puff, Puffy, and
That's
then
all. Just make him sound a little bit more relatable to them.
Now there's a few other notable moments. Mark Agnifilo wants Capricorn to tell the jury about Capricorn's friendship with this woman named Jeanette, to which Capricorn is very, again, this is why I think her testimony comes off very well received, is even during the cross, she comes off so suggestible. Like Mark is telling her, tell the jurors, and they say that a lot during the cross-examination. It just means say it out loud. But she will literally turn her body towards the jurors and start explaining her friendship like she's doing the icebreaker at work. So Mark will tell her, so tell the jury about your friendship. She turns to the jurors. I'd moved to New York. I was working in advertising. I was living in the Bronx, hated the Bronx. My friend Jeanette, I met her through a mutual. My roommate had a girlfriend and they were friends, and then we kind of got closer, and then the girlfriend, because they were vegans and whatever. So me and Jeanette, we formed a friendship, and she went out a lot. She was like a popular New York City, Lower East Side girl, New Yorker, and she would hang out with different people, but she would often hang out with Mr. Combs and would invite me, and then just sort of like start hanging out, us three as like a little friendship group. Even during the cross, it's hard to not like her.
Right, okay.
So
it's likable. It's very, very likable.
It feels like you kind of almost want to protect her. It's like, oh my God, this whole front area of attorneys, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, I mean, these are all sharks in the water.
Yeah.
Like they're
polished.
Yeah, and you just want to be like, oh, okay, wait, can you stop oversharing? Like you want to almost protect her in a sense.
Right.
Another time he's telling her, quote, tell the jury that story of how she starts working for Combs. Again, she turns her chair completely. So I was working in advertising, and then September 11 happened. And then I went to a film company called Crossroads. Awesome people. They paid off my student loans. They were great. And then I put my resume on Monster. It was like a new website at the time where you could upload your resume, similar to, I guess, whatever the ones are now. So like she's she's talking to the jurors like best friends. Mark also tries to ask her if Combs was doing drugs when Capricorn met him, meaning was he using drugs at that time in his life? But Capricorn hears, was he doing ecstasy when you met him? Not when I met him. No, I don't mean at the time. I mean in that time period. Yeah, in that time period. And I'm trying to, do you remember telling Mr. Combs that you had a crush on him, even going back to when you were friends? No? All right, I'm going to just ask to show the witness defense exhibit 946. This is just for the witness and the parties, and if we can blow it up. Can you read that? Is that big enough for you? Yes, I can see it. And she looks at it, and it looks like Capricorn is looking at a picture of a UFO that landed on the tippy top of the Eiffel Tower. She looks flabbergasted. Even Sean Combs is glasses on, booty scooched to like the edge of his chair, looking at the screen like, where's Waldo? It's a text message thread between Capricorn Clark and Combs, with Capricorn texting Sean Combs, totally unrelated to our current conversation, but did you ever know that I had the biggest crush on you before I started working for you? We hung out all the time. I played it super cool. Jeanette might be the only one that knew. I don't think you knew. I couldn't tell if it was mutual. I just knew for sure that you liked to have me around. We called you Choc, short for chocolate. I was just thinking about them nights before everything. So nice, great memories, 20 years ago, time is wild. Do you have any memory of that at all? I really don't. No? No. So before you worked for him, am I right? You liked him. Forget about crushes for the time being. You liked him. I liked him as a friend. You liked him as a friend, right? Yes, as a friend. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to keep doing that to you. Like, it's so interesting because I feel like in any other witness cross-examination, this might be like an aha moment. But
like,
for
got you.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like that at all. Like, even the email reads like Capricorn Clark. Like, she just seems like the type that says a bunch of things when she feels it and then doesn't feel it anymore. Like, she seems like that personality, so it doesn't feel damning even in the slightest.
So like whatever Mark is trying to do is not working on her.
No, not at all. After this slightly embarrassing, perhaps, moment, instead of letting Capricorn put her guard up, Mark Agnifilo is doing the best he can. He's pretty good at crosses other than his filibustering. It seems like he talks to her about working at Def Jam, and he references, like back when like Run DMC type thing, like all back that far, or not that far. Not that far. I'm not that old, sir. So like everyone giggles and Mark is giggling and he says, well, I am. And he's just making her comfortable again. She states, I'm more Foxy Brown, Red Man, Method Man, Jay-Z days. Got it, got it. Even during the cross, Capricorn is a likable witness in the sense that nothing feels like a reveal. Nothing feels like an aha moment, even though there were so many times where it could have been. Even when answering another question, she's like whispering and counting months. She's like, if I started in, I think it was April, so April, May, June, July. Like, she's just so, it feels like such a normal person, just counting out the months. Eventually, Mark Agnifilo leads the conversation back to the missing jewelry, in which he asks if Capricorn knows anyone else in the company that had a lie detector test administered. So we actually do know that David James, remember, he had the lie detector. But Capricorn states Mike B. Who is Mike B? Mike B was his stylist. Now, side note, I did not think that this part was that important because I'm like, if he testifies later or if his name comes up more frequently, because like Uncle Polly, D-Rock, Bonds, like these people's names come up nonstop. Gina, like Vashta, Christina Coram, these are all people that are coming up repeatedly. This is like my second time hearing Mike B until I see Combs's best friend in the pews. He had his notebook closed on his side with his pen inside and he was falling asleep. Like he's fully falling asleep, his eyes are closed. He hears Mike B. He startles awake, grabs his notebook and starts writing. So then I start writing in my notebook, who is Mike B? Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like just that name.
Yeah.
And you start writing something.
Yeah. I don't know what. Eventually, Mark goes into the actual lie detector test. He's trying to question the credibility of the story because I guess to some people it could sound crazy. He's trying to lean into that, but Capricorn is firm. And you were all hooked up to the lie detector test equipment all day for 5 days? Not all day. He would unhook me to review the test. Okay, and this man, you had no idea who this man was other than the description you gave us. You have no idea who he is? No, I do not. And you were hooked up the whole time? I wasn't hooked up the whole time. I would take the test, he would unhook me, we would review it, we would do it again. Okay, so how many individual lie detector tests did you get? I didn't count, but I kept doing it every day. He starts trying to ask, why didn't you tell HR? Which I thought was kind of a goofy line of questioning. Did you call Vashta and say, I've been locked up in New York, in a New York City building that locks from the outside for 5 days? I didn't, I feel like this is some kind of violation. I did not. Vashta was approachable, right? Futile conversation, but yeah, she was approachable. Okay, and you never called Vashta to say, you should know an employee of this company is being kidnapped, locked in a building in New York City that locks from the outside on the 6th floor, being given lie detector test after lie detector test every day for 5 days straight. You never had that conversation? I did not. And you said that Paul brought you to the 5 times as white as you man, right? Again, trying to poke holes in her story, pointing out things that maybe some jurors would find too crazy to be true. But Capricorn is looking at him like, oh my God, finally someone who gets it. Yes. She's like, yes, he's the one that brought me to the 5 times as white as me, man. So it's like,
Okay.
it's not working in the way that it would work maybe with any other witness. It just doesn't really work. And then Mark goes on to point out that Capricorn was fired multiple times. She just keeps coming back to work for Sean Combs, sometimes even taking a pay cut. Capricorn emotionally states, I worked for him in many roles over a long period of time. I think I was a really good employee for him. And she starts kind of crying. And he would tell you that? He would. Combs is just nodding along, which I don't know. I feel like a lot of this is getting into slightly culty territory. I'm not alleging that anything is a cult. I'm not getting conspiratorial, but it does feel really icky. Like, I get what the defense is trying to do, but also it just feels like everyone worked really hard for him, gave up their lives for him, and he's just like, yeah, nodding. Like, don't forget my toiletries. He just shows no sympathetic emotions. He's just sitting there like, okay, cool. Mark Agnifilo says, and from what you could see, a lot of the people in this orbit worked hard for him, right? I don't think they worked as hard as me, but yes, people were working hard. Separate from all this stuff, you know, I did learn a lot of stuff from Mr. Combs. So remember the judge told Mark Agnifilo to call him Mr. Combs. So she says Puff by accident. She startles herself, looks at the judge and is panicked and is like, Mr. Combs. She looks genuinely scared that she said Puff instead of Mr. Combs. This is what I mean by saying she feels very genuine on the stand. He has ideas, he knows how to execute, he's tenacious, he wanted to break the glass ceiling as it related to what we were allowed to do as Black people in the business world, and it helped when you worked so hard to be working with somebody who would match wits with you on the fervor to be successful. And she's sobbing at this point. Mark asks her if she needs a minute. No, I'm fine, sir. Sorry. This is just very complicated. Combs, again, is just leaned back in his chair looking like a bored businessman. He will frequently glance over at Mark with his mouth slightly agape, just blinking and staring. But I feel like the crazy thing is he looks at the jury to kind of, the feeling that I get is he's looking at them like, you see, they love me. But I feel like if I were on the jury, the feeling I would get is like, wow, you don't even care. This girl that you've known and worked with for that many years, is this falling apart on the stand? There's nothing in him that showed any sort of oh, I didn't know she felt that way. Or damn, what a shitty situation that I put her in. Nothing. It's just you hear that? She said I was amazing. She said I was breaking a glass ceiling. Did you hear that? That's the feeling. And if I were on the jury, I'd be like, I'm getting the ick. I don't know if it relates to the charges, but I'm getting the ick.
And you were saying even at times you were getting emotional, right?
Yeah,
this is him and her had such a long running relationship, and it doesn't seem like he showed much of emotion.
There's actually one part where a lot of people in the press later commented that they almost started crying. And same with me, I almost had to eventually Mark is I want to talk about Cassie Ventura for a bit. Okay. Capricorn says that she got along with Cassie really well until they didn't. I would say our issues developed after she started dating him. I would say she got a little more, and she starts kind of moving her head around in 2008, I would say perhaps. And so just so the record reflects, you said she got a little more and then you moved your shoulders. Oh, sorry, yeah. No, it's all right. What were you conveying? What are you telling the jury? She got a little more bravado as being his girlfriend the longer it lasted. When you say she got more bravado, how did that manifest itself to what you could see? Sometimes she thought that I was being paid to help her, just that her expectation level was increasing. She went from more being a sweet model to a feisty girlfriend. Okay, and did you think she was very talented? Okay, this is the part where literally the next day everyone in the press was like, why is everybody catching strays nonstop in testimonies? I think she had talent, and I think she was a very beautiful girl. Okay, so I asked if she was very talented, and you said she was not very talented as far as you're concerned. True. You said she had talent. Why do you think that she has talent as opposed to being very talented? Talented to me is Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey. Very talented is that level of performer, entertainer. Cassie was more of a studio artist, a little more comfortable in the vocal booth to have a little bit of things equalized for you and, engineered properly, less of a live performer. She states that Cassie is a hard worker, but also not a hard worker. And in what ways was she not a hard worker? Oh, well, I would say that most of the time she preferred to be with her boyfriend. But she does mention that Cassie's hard work decreases once Kim Porter has her twins, the Combs twins. After that, you saw that she wasn't working as hard. Not as hard. And it doesn't come off as Capricorn is trying to talk badly about Cassie on the stand. It just seems like she's very unfiltered and just says everything that's on her mind. At another point, she's talking about a hairstyle that she worked on Cassie with, and she describes it like she liked it. She loved the hair. She was like, yeah, let's do it. I said we could cheat it with a weave, but it would be cooler if you dye your hair. And she was like, ooh, I love that. So it was cool. She's just so expressive. Meanwhile, Combs is rustling through his little notes like he's looking for something. And later, Mark Agnifilo asks Capricorn, okay, now at what point do you and she go to Best Buy and get her a burner phone? So remember, because she's the one that recommended Cassie get the burner phone? Mm-hmm. After we went hiking with Cuddy that day, Capricorn is explaining that she told Cassie she needs a burner phone. And where did you get that idea from? I mean, I know it sounds naive, but where did you get that idea from? Capricorn looks at him like he's growing 3 heads. Like, my parents died when I was 17. I'm from Los Angeles. I don't know how to answer this question. I'm smart. And then everyone's just giggling because it's just two of Capricorn's attorneys. They even look at each other and they smile. Yeah, and they're right in front of us. But Mark is not done. He's never done. This is filibuster Mark Agnifilo. So he's able to sneak in a question telling and asking Capricorn where Sean Combs was in December of 19th, 2011. So mind you, all of the Kid Cudi stuff is happening right before Christmas in 2011, but he's like honing in. Do you recall if he was on December 19th, 2011 at an orphanage in Kazakhstan? I just remember he was in Russia. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember he was in Russia or something like that. Okay, do you remember seeing photographs of him on the internet at an orphanage in Kazakhstan in December? And it just felt so random. It felt like he was throwing it in there to be like, hey, by the way, my client is a philanthropist. Hey, my client saves dying puppies. Is anybody listening? Brian Steele's not listening. He's falling asleep. He's over this. Meanwhile, Sean Combs, full smiles. I'm seeing so much teeth. Sean Combs smiles, and then he leans over to Tenny Garagos and mentions something, and it's like super quick. And then Tenny nods. But then after nodding, she leans in towards him, whispers something super quick, and then suddenly his full smile, gone. It was giving like, hey, maybe don't smile when they're talking nicely about you. And it was just like so goofy. Brian Steele, fully asleep. Mark goes on, moving on to the next thing. And he goes on to debate whether or not the day of the alleged kidnapping, Combs pointed the gun at Capricorn or if he was just waving it around. Capricorn states that he was waving it around. But Mark says, according to the government meeting notes, it says that previously she said he was pointing it at her, which the feeling being pointing it around, waving it around. I mean, still kind of a gun, right?
Yeah.
At one point during this very intense line of questioning, we hear a scream from the other side of the gallery. My heart dropped completely because it was like a very intense moment. Even my researcher was like grabbing my arm because she was startled, but it was actually just somebody sneezing on the other side. But it genuinely sounded like a full-on scream. And there's this brief moment before Mark continues about the night of the alleged kidnapping where he wants to know the location of the car and all the pertinent questions. There's a lot of back and forth. And then Mark establishes that Ruben, Combs, and Capricorn get into the Escalade. They drive to Kid Cudi's house. They park on the side of the street. The car is on a hill. So it's going up the hill when they're parked. Meanwhile, Capricorn is like sneaking a call to Cassie when they leave and they break into Kid Cudi's house. And he's like, you saw them go through this door. This is like the outside door into the courtyard. Yes, sir. Okay, did it seem like anyone had a key? No. Did it seem like they pulled the door hard and it opened? Like, what did you see that allowed them to get through the door? Whatever they were doing, their backs were to me, I don't know, but I was not really engaged in how they were getting in. I was waiting for them to get away from me so I could use the phone. But wouldn't you be watching them to see if they're actually going to be getting away from you? I mean, the key thing here is they don't get through this door, this ends right here, no? Objection? Let me ask a different question. Why wouldn't you be staring right at the door to see if they can get in through the door? Objection, argumentative, rephrase. Were you looking at the door to see if they could get through the door? I was looking at their backs. Okay, as you're looking at their backs, what on the other side of them is this door, right? Yes, but I would say at this point I was kind of sort of not really paying attention. I was so in my head trying to think about the next step, and I was praying that Cudi wasn't inside of there. Okay, so what you're telling us is you haven't the vaguest idea how they got through this door. Is that about right? I don't. She says after they get past the door, they run into the courtyard towards Kid Cudi's actual front door and presumably break into his actual house. She grabs her phone and calls Cassie. Could you tell from your side of the call if Cassie was on the phone with speaker with Scott Muscati present with her when you called? Yes. And they're asking her what she said, which is interesting because Kid Cudi testified he didn't know that Sean Combs had a gun. Capricorn is testifying she specifically told them on the phone call that Combs had a gun, but she didn't know that Kid Cudi was there. She's asked, what exactly did you say about the gun? I said, Puff came to my house with a gun. We came to Cudi's house to kill him. He's in there right now. And then I heard, they're in my house. Okay, so you said it quickly. I said it very quickly. I didn't want him to see me on the phone. My question is, you would want to make it absolutely clear that Combs had a gun, right? It wasn't about being clear. I was furious at her now, and I was like, what the hell? And I'm just letting her know as fast as I can without him knowing I'm on the phone what the hell is going on with me. I'm asking about the gun part. I said, yes, he came to my house with a gun, and he took me to Cudi's house, and we're here to kill him, sir. At this point, Combs starts shaking his head rather intensely, like, no, we're not. To them, did anyone say anything back? A gun? He has a gun? Was there any acknowledgement of the fact that you said gun? No. I heard, he's in my house. And everyone just kind of started giggling because it's like, how many times is she going to have to say that in that voice? Now, when you called Cuddy and Cassie, were you on a three-way call with Lauren London? This is a friend. No. Do you remember telling the government that you were? She was on the phone, but not the whole time. Okay, when did you call Lauren London? Right before I called Cassie. Let's break this down for a second. I want to understand this. You're in front of the house. Combs has a gun, right? Combs and his gun and Rube somehow get through that door and are now in Cuddy's house, right?
Who is Lauren London?
Lauren London was she was Nipsey Hussle's partner for a really long time, and then he passed away, and then there were rumors that Sean Combs and Lauren London dated.
I see. So they're just, okay,
yes.
Got it.
You don't know at that moment whether Cuddy is there or not, right? I don't. So you call Lauren London. She was the only one that was sort of in our orbit as related to me and Cassie, and she was like my sister at the time. I will say this is confirmed by gossip blogs. They're like, everyone thought they were blood sisters. They're not. They're like best friends. And just wanted somebody to know where I was if he was in that house and that he did get killed. I didn't know. I just needed somebody to know where I was in that case. It all went really bad, so I called her for my protection. I just needed somebody to be aware. So tell us exactly what you said to Lauren London. I'm just like, Lauren, I'm at Cuddy's house. Puff brought me up here and I want to run, but I'm scared of the mountain lions. Scared of the mountain lions? Yeah, it was early. If you're familiar with the Hollywood Hills, there's mountain lions and coyotes. I was just scared. And I just needed to talk to somebody to get my head on straight. It was so early in the morning. Which, interestingly enough, even though Capricorn is, quote, changing her story, with any other witness like Dawn Richard, it felt damning because I think of the way that Dawn Richard did the testimony, the way that she was responding to some of the questions and judging by the jurors' faces. But nobody seems fazed at all by this.
In what way is her story changing?
I guess she never mentioned
Lauren London.
Yeah, but the defense attorneys are going to say that's a story change. And I'm sure when it's the defense case in chief, the prosecutors are going to do the same thing.
Right. But the way she explained it, it's like, well, duh, I just,
Yeah, she's like, why wouldn't you call your best friend? I called my best friend. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Did you wake Lauren London up? I don't remember her status. Okay, how long did you talk to Lauren London? Seconds, maybe 30 seconds. It was fast. I had to get off the phone because Puff kept popping out into the walkway and in the courtyard. I really don't remember, but I do remember making a call to Lauren, and I do remember making a phone call to Cassie. Are you aware that Lauren London and Combs were friends for years after this? I am. You are, right? They're still friends. I mean, not at the moment, but they were friends until a couple years ago, right? Which I felt like, I get his point that Lauren London is still friends with Combs after her best friend Capricorn is allegedly kidnapped by him by gunpoint. But the last part, I mean, they're not friends now, definitely also doesn't help the defendant. I just find it interesting. It's just very hard to destroy Capricorn's credibility. Even when geographically, sometimes Capricorn's story does not make sense. She says after calling Cassie, she hears Kid Cudi coming to the house. Soon enough, she sees him pull up in the Porsche, and what happens next? He stops next to us, next to the Escalade. Puff and Rube look at him, see if he's gonna get out of the car or what's gonna happen, and then he speeds off and they jump in the car and we chase him. Up the hill? Up the hill. And are you aware of the fact that when you go up the hill, the only way to get back down to the main roads is to come exactly the way you came? That's not true. Mark and the defense team pull up a map of where Kid Cudi's house is, and he is explaining more so to the jury that Capricorn said that this is where they went, but all of this leads to a dead end. That doesn't make sense. And then he's confirming with the map, but they all seem to be dead ends. Do you see that, Capricorn, Miss Clark? I mean, I would imagine that this is a big aha moment, but Capricorn is firm, but they're not. To the point where Mark Agnifilo is so taken aback, he says, do you know something we don't know? I mean, you can ask somebody that's a technical person, but Skyline, if you go from Hollywood Hills Road to Skyline, you can get yourself back on Mulholland, and then you can get yourself back to Laurel Canyon, and then you can go towards Beverly Hills on Mulholland, or go back down Laurel Canyon. She says this with so much confidence that I had to go home and research whether or not Mark Agnifilo used older maps to try and confuse Capricorn. I'm looking up if maybe the maps of the Hollywood Hills are not as accurate. It's not. It seems like it's quite the accurate map. However, this is how convincing Capricorn is in her story. I feel like maybe there's some sort of misunderstanding. Maybe like she meant they went a different way, Because if you go the different way, you do see Skyline, you do see Laurel Canyon. And then she said she was going south on Laurel Canyon when the police were going up Laurel Canyon. So I'm like, I feel like this, but that's crazy because that's how
convincing.
She came across. Like, not convincing in the sense of like, we don't think she's telling the truth, but in the sense of like, she's so firm with her answers. She's been so transparent. But the whole time, Combs is just shaking his head in disagreement. Like, I can't believe how crazy this story is. Which, honestly, there have been a lot more of these, like, I'm so confused. However, everybody is giggling to release some tension in the courtroom, so I guess we will all giggle. And a lot of those moments come from previous employees of Combs, like Capricorn, but also David James. David James, another former personal assistant, he talks about the time that he took ecstasy. He says, it was a New Year's Eve party, and Mr. Combs gave me the night off, but he invited me to the house to the party and to celebrate New Year's Eve. So I went to Mr. Combs's bag and I took a pill of ecstasy that night. So he's doing this without Sean Combs's knowledge. And then he is asked, what happened after you took the ecstasy? I was feeling pretty good. Can you describe the feeling of taking ecstasy? I would say it's ecstatic. So I was also drinking Ciroc that night. So I was drinking and on ecstasy. Normally, I'm very straight edge, don't normally have too much emotion. But this night I was like dancing, said I was Diddy bopping all over the party. And the gallery starts giggling. A few of the jurors are sharing glances. What happened after you started Diddy bopping, as you describe it? I was just vibing. And even Combs is smiling, but he explains that afterwards, after Diddy bopping, he gets called into Combs's office where Combs tells him, yo, Playboy, is that you dancing around the party? And I said, yeah, that was me dancing around the party. He said, you were on ecstasy that night. And I said, yes, sir, I was. And he kind of nodded his head and said, okay, well, I'm going to keep this footage in case I ever need it.
What footage?
Of him Diddy bopping to embarrass him. Later in the cross, Mark Agnifilo is asking David James about his title. And he's like, but your title was personal assistant, just so I know what to call you. And David is like, call me David. Other times, David James is asked by Mark Agnifilo, the same one that's doing Capricorn's Cross, that whenever Combs ran into fans at McDonald's, let's say, Mark says, in your opinion, did he intend to be gracious around these sort of things? I don't think gracious is a word I would use to describe Mr. Combs. Okay, but he keeps doubling down. Did he ever sign autographs for fans? He did not. Actually, sometimes I would sign autographs or his executive staff would sign autographs. He would send those out if we got fan mail, for example. He did not sign many autographs. He also tries to make David James feel good, saying things like, long days were never a problem for David James, though, because he never gets tired. To which David James responds, that's not true. One day I was actually driving home from the studio in LA, and I was actually driving the car this night, and I blew through a red light, and Mr. Combs got very upset with me, and he was like, what are you doing, man? We can't be blowing red lights. We'll be pulled over by the cops. I just turned around, and I said, I'm fucking tired, man, like I'm exhausted. So then Mark is like, okay, let's move on. And the whole time, Sean Combs is sitting there and he's kind of making these very specific expressions, which he does for all of his personal assistants when they share stories like this, which is, I've never heard this story before. Like, he is, in my opinion, trying to appear very confused. Like, where's this story coming from? There's another part where David James admits during the cross-examination that one of the security staff members, Roger Bonds, had picked up two women that were sex workers. And he says, I wasn't familiar at the time that they were prostitutes. That's how he words it. Tell us what happened. Roger Bonds and I went out to eat. We went out to have drinks one night. We were off. We went to the hotel lobby. We met two women, and we brought these two women back to Mr. Combs' residence. Combs was not there at the time. He was at a hotel. Did you ask anyone if you could bring these women back to the house? I mean, Roger Bonds, it was his idea to do it. Okay, Roger Bonds made you do it. It was often that security detail would actually invite women over to the house without Mr. Combs' knowledge. And it turns out that these weren't just women. They were what? Well, after we had intercourse, they asked me for $200. I was very surprised. I was like, what do you mean? And I called Bonds and I said, why is this woman asking me for money? I had no idea she was, a person to ask for money after that. And I was against paying her. So I told Bonds, I don't want to pay her for this. I don't understand. Why? He said, you better pay her because we don't want any problems here at the house. So pay her. And you paid her? I did. And then she wanted to take a shower. So I asked her to pay me $200 to take a shower. How did that turn out? I got my money back. You got your money back. Congratulations. And everyone in the courtroom is giggling because we don't really know what else to do. Even Sean Combs is glancing around to check, like, am I allowed to giggle? And he, like, glances around and then he gets a little chuckles in. I will say, though, to offset these lighter moments, there is this odd feeling that whenever a former personal assistant talks about Sean Combs, and I say this so that you understand the vibe, a lot of them sound like they were in a cult. They will get so emotional talking about the trauma of working for Combs. They will be so firm in their insistence on seeing violence amongst themselves or with Cassie and others, like whether they are receiving the violence or whether Sean Combs is putting that violence on Cassie. But the second they're asked to talk about Sean Combs as a boss, it gets strange. George Kaplan is another assistant who was subpoenaed by the government to testify, and I feel like most of his testimony helped the defense. He does state that some parts of his job were hard. It was my first week on the job. He asked me to go to Whole Foods and get a BPA gallon water bottle, and they didn't have it, like a BPA-free gallon water bottle. And I didn't want to be coming back late, so I got 2 half-gallon water bottles to make up the whole gallon, and that was insufficient. How did Mr. Combs respond when you brought him 2 half-gallon water bottles instead of 1 gallon water bottle? He was angry. He told me that I did not bring him what he asked for. Meanwhile, when he talks to Mark, the entire cross is just making Sean Combs looks good. He says everything that Mr. Combs did and does, diversity is a very important part of it, especially for the African American people. When you work with him, Mr. Combs, part of the job, no matter if you're close to him or not, he has an extremely infectious vibration. I mean, you are around him and you feel his excitement, you feel what he feels, and he's very adept at projecting that. I have never worked harder in my life. Mark Agnifilo asks George Kaplan, you've never worked harder in your life. And they always say, don't ask a question you don't know the answer to, but here I go. Looking back at it, was that a good thing or a bad thing? I can't answer that question. It's proven to be one of the most complicated pieces of my life.
Is he the one that had a
immunity? Yes.
Immunity before he started talking,
yes.
Right?
Although nothing he said was particularly crazy. There was some drug conversation of purchasing drugs. He says it was sad when he would get yelled at by Sean Combs because, quote, I'm a young man and this is a God among men talking to me.
Wow.
But he also says he didn't just push me to my deepest depth. He introduced me to depths that I did not know that I had. It helped me not only professionally, but that piece helped me grow up as a man. He also mentions that the entire company gets paid time off on Biggie's birthday because it's a holiday. He says that he still reaches out to Sean Combs for his birthdays, and he says, I invited him to my wedding. I did not hear back. And again, it's like that moment of like, wow, these people are talking about how they gave up everything for Sean Combs. And he can't even message you back. And I told him that I had a baby. And yet you still sit here today on the witness stand of his trial and you have respect for him? Yeah, I'd say that it's a complicated relationship at this point. I think I have lots of complicated relationships in my life. And I think this perhaps falls in that bucket.
So it sounds like, Sean Combs is this like very high status person. And it's not like Sean Combs like necessarily kind to them or very nice to them. Like he pushes them to their maximum, but still he's this very influential person that, did a number on their, it's not because Sean is like nice to them in any way, right?
I don't think so.
Correct? Is that the feeling from him?
Yeah.
Like he never say that Sean was like, cares about him or anything like that.
But I think this is the feeling that most people would have working for someone like Sean Combs. I think it's just a natural human thing. When you work for someone that is at such a high level and they might be so cutthroat, you almost rationalize it in your head as this is what it takes to be great. And then once they do compliment you or they say one nice thing about you, you feel so
validated
because it's like it's not a random person saying this to you. This is one of the more powerful people in the industry. This is like it feels really real. I wonder if this is just a normal thing that happens. And you didn't want to come here today. I desperately did not want to come here today because you have nothing against Sean Combs, right? Correct. Now, same with Capricorn. During her cross, she's shown an email between her and the head of HR where she's just like wiping tears and she's talking about how she got fired. And even though she had so much trauma from her job, she's so sad about getting fired. Now, after her termination, she does get hired by Chris Lighty to be 50 Cent's day-to-day manager. But right before her very first...
she worked for 50 Cent?
No, because right before her very first day at work, Chris Lighty ends up passing away. So I think
Chris Lighty works for 50 Cent.
Yes, and Chris Lighty hired her, but then Chris Lighty passed away. I think it's probably a whole new team that takes over the management of 50.
So she didn't get the job.
No. Then another email is brought into evidence, then a text thread between Capricorn and Combs, and it reads with Capricorn asking, "Are you okay? Is your mom okay? Hope all is well, XX." Sean responds, "Yes, we're great. How are you? Hopefully you'll forgive me soon. It's been long enough. I feel like you forgave everyone but me. Anyways, be well, XX." She's like sobbing while Mark Agnifilo is reading this out loud. Then another email chain from Capricorn to Sean Combs where she writes to him, "Hope you're well. Your grace period to be mad at me has long exceeded the agreed upon time, man. LOL." Mark has her read out the second paragraph and she's just crying nonstop. "My hope for this year is for you to make good on your promise to get other things and actually be my friend again. Hopefully retrospect has taught you that I just minded my own business and grown people did what they wanted to. She was clearly never my real friend because she didn't clarify that to you. So many of your other so-called friends knew things too and you still f with them. She just must have wanted me in particular gone." So she's talking about Cassie, she's talking about the Kid Cudi, and she's talking about how there are other people in Combs' life that have done worse and he's still friends with them. And she's upset. So much so that Mark is telling her, take your time, take your time. Take a second if you need. Take as much time as you need. Sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. And she's explaining, "I felt, again, I told you this is just so complicated for me. I felt that I was somewhat of a protector for Puff. And if you could get me away from him, he wouldn't have someone looking after his back that actually was looking out for him. So that email is me pleading like, dude, just let it go." And she starts sobbing. She apologizes again for being emotional. "That's all right. That's okay. Take all the time you need. There's no rush." And yeah, it's just sad. Diddy's just nodding. He has no reaction in the courtroom. And the judge is very sweet with Capricorn. He tells her, "Miss Clark, is it okay if we go on?" "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry, please." Even Mark Agnifilo chimes in, "You're okay." Capricorn looks at the judge. "I apologize for my language today." The judge looks at her. "Do not apologize." "Mr. Agnifilo, when you're ready." "You ended up coming back and working with him again, right?" "Yes." "From your perspective, he heard you." I don't think that was the case. I think that he did what Cassie wanted and Cassie wanted me back." "All right, can I ask you a question? Did that hurt that he would only take you back because that's what Cassie wanted?" "Yes, absolutely." And she starts breaking down again. "This is my whole life and their shenanigans. I have no parents. My son has autism. He's nonverbal and my stakes are higher, sir." This is the part where I said a lot of people were tearing up. I think it's like because with everyone, you just keep hearing, if you were so scared for your life, why did you keep going back? Which I think is already like not the best question to ask anyone. But I think with her, it's the way she says it puts it so much in perspective. Like sometimes not everybody has hundreds of millions of dollars and choices. So yeah, you know, and you just feel. Okay, so you reached out to him consistently, right? And I'm sorry, through the year 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, you wanted him to forgive you, am I right? "I wanted my life back, sir." And your life, when you say I want my life back, you wanted to work with him again. "I wanted to work with the music industry and use my core competency." During the redirect, Capricorn mentions that part of her settlement agreement was that Combs would give her a positive recommendation to get a job, which he doesn't even do that. "How long were you looking for work?" "I was looking for work until I pretty much got pregnant." "In what year was that?" 2015. "Were you able to obtain work?" "No." "Why not?" "I was blacklisted." "Did you return to work for Mr. Combs?" "I did." "Why did you do that?" "I wanted to take the opportunity so that other people could see that I was a valuable person and that I wasn't disposable." "Why did you need Mr. Combs' approval for that?" "At this level of business, he held all the power as it related to me." During the recross, Mark Agnifilo focuses mainly on Cassie with asking, "Do you remember saying at our meeting in 2024 that Cassie said to you that if you told Cassie you should move away from him and date other people, right?" "Yes." "And she said to you that Jay-Z was taken, who would she date?" "True." "She said that." "She did." "Nothing else. Thanks, Judge." And that is the end of Capricorn's entire testimony. It's very interesting because prior to this, I felt like I was living in two worlds. So I would go into the courtroom, and I know that the jurors are not supposed to be making faces or like nodding their heads, but you can kind of get vibes. And I felt like even throughout Cassie's testimony, there was a disconnect and what felt like a very big difference between the energy inside the courtroom versus the online sentiment of her testimony. I felt like a lot of the jurors were, some of them looked to me not perceiving Cassie's testimony well.
And you're kind of like frustrated a lot of time when you come home. You're like, man, why is it not?
Yeah, because it's like when you actually take a second to think about it, and maybe the jurors go home and they take a second to think about it. When you think about it, there's so many reasons why certain things unfolded the way they did. But when you see some of the jurors' reactions, it's like it always felt like a lot of the case was not working really for the government. And then this is when things started going the opposite way. Like Capricorn Clark's testimony, I think it's really hard for jurors to A, not believe her, or B, not resonate with her. I think even if you have doubts about some parts of her story, I feel like it's so hard to not resonate with her emotions. I just didn't see a single person smirking or like looking like this is so, I don't believe you. Like it didn't look like that at all. So it's been this was a very noticeable shift. I think, you even see it online. I think with Cassie's testimony, maybe it's more complicated and everybody walks in with a bias already established. And people want to victim blame, people want to do these things. But with Capricorn, it's like, it seemed a little more clean cut and her emotions felt so real. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments, and we will be back to more regular episodes because we just had a lot to figure out and we figured it out. But be safe, and I will see you in the next one.